Pokémon, the story of Yu. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101 Pikachu. They are no match at all. In the audience, Zygarde said helplessly. He had accompanied Zygarde all the way here. Although he didn't think Zygarde would win the championship of this league meeting, he still felt indescribable disappointment when he saw Zygarde being suppressed like this. 1 against 3. It's still the same situation. Even Charizard can't beat Dragonite. More importantly, Zygarde's current state is a little wrong. Professor Oak said. In Pokémon battles, in addition to the importance of Pokémon, the trainer is also extremely important. Not only does it require the correct command of the trainer, but also the mentality of the trainer. Pokémon will persist in fighting for the trainer and even exert power beyond their own. This is the power of bond. But if the trainer himself is confused, it will also confuse the Pokémon in turn. 1 against 3. This is a bit of a blow. And if you keep this attitude, it will only be a vicious cycle. What if 1 against 6? Zygarde, what are you doing? Cheer up. Zygarde suddenly shouted at Zygarde. Didn't you say you wanted to be the best Pokémon master? You and Pikachu have come all the way here together. How can you just lose the game here? How can you live up to Pikachu's efforts? Zygarde, who was in a low point, was suddenly scolded by Zygarde. He was stunned for a moment, and then shouted back without thinking. I know it too. Don't meddle in my business. If you don't want me to meddle in your business, just play a decent game for me to see. Zygarde said. Zygarde didn't say anything else, turned his head, and looked at Pikachu. Pikachu, I leave it to you. Pikachu nodded firmly, patted his chest, jumped off the field, and his body was flashing with lightning. But the audience around was not in high spirits. The size difference was too big. He's not even as tall as his opponent's thigh. What are you fighting for? He's going to be punched again. Dragonite, who had just experienced a big battle with Charizard, was about to go back to rest before coming out, but when he saw that it was Pikachu who came out, he immediately showed a contemptuous expression. That's it? A little guy who is not even as tall as my feet wants to fight me? Look at me, I'll beat a little brother with one punch. At that moment, he turned his head to look at Yu and patted his chest, saying, let me do it, no problem. Are you sure you won't come back? Yu said. Dragonite nodded firmly. Okay, in that case, you can continue to fight. If you win, your snacks will be doubled in the future. If you lose, you will have no snacks for a month. Yu said. Let's use Dragonite to see the legendary Pikachu. Raw Dragonite roared. No problem at all. What, no snacks for a month? It's all fake. Snacks doubled? I'm not dreaming, am I? Dragonite looked at Pikachu with fiery eyes. At this moment, Pikachu was no longer an opponent in his eyes, but fried chicken, hamburgers, potato chips and cola. Speed. Yu's order was issued quickly. Dragonite's eyes were sharp, and it turned into white light and flew quickly. My snacks, here I come. Pikachu, a flash of lightning. Zygarde shouted immediately. Pikachu immediately jumped up, turned into a yellow light, and rushed towards Dragonite at the same time. The two lights collided violently, but Dragonite was better after all. Before Pikachu's lightning power reached its peak, it interrupted it in advance, and knocked Pikachu away in one breath. Flame Fist. Yu shouted. Dragonite's arm burned with blazing flames, and it punched violently, but just as it was approaching, looking at Pikachu's cute appearance, it had a little hesitation. It was so cute. Would it be bad if I used all my strength? Thinking of this, Dragonite silently reserved half of its strength, which should be enough. The flames hit, and Pikachu was hit against the wall with a punch, showing a slight pain expression. Then Pikachu grabbed Dragonite's claws tightly. Dragonite suddenly realized that something was wrong. Pikachu, now, 100,000 volts. Zygarde shouted. Pikachu's eyes widened, and electric current flashed on his body. The terrifying electric current vented from his body, and the dense electric current instantly enveloped the entire Dragonite. Instantly, Dragonite's body went numb and it screamed. Dragonite, fly. Yu hurriedly said. Dragonite can resist electric type moves, but flying type moves are restrained. Dragonite has both attributes, so the result is normal damage. Pikachu's 100,000 volts is never reasonable. Even if the attributes are unfavorable, it can still deal normal damage. With normal attributes, it can deal restrained damage. Even if Pikachu has not grown up yet and is not Pikachu, it does not mean it is bad. The Dragonite in the Orange Islands is the only Pokémon in the animation that has 10 special moves at the same time. Wasn't it sent away in one go? Dragonite roared, flew up quickly, swung violently, threw Pikachu aside, and rushed into the sky before he had time to take a deep breath. Looking at Pikachu below, I was still in shock. Oh my god, where does this little electric mouse get such a strong current? My double snack is going to be ruined. No, I have to persist. Dragonite rushed into the sky and dodged Pikachu's 100,000 volts, but it was obviously hurt in the battle just now. What should we do next? The commentator saw that Dragonite was hurt and immediately became interested. Maybe there will be a reversal. Dragonite, fast. Yu said, don't waste too much time, just use your speed to the limit. Dragonite understood and showed its speed perfectly, and learned from the lesson of being hit by Charizard just now, adding multiple changes, making Pikachu overwhelmed, and passively bearing many attacks. Pikachu, hold on, seize the opportunity, jump on Dragonite. Zyos, he shouted. Pikachu shouted firmly, and then its petite body injured the force that it should not bear. It was knocked down again and again, and stood up again and again. Yu's luck is too good. I actually met such a weak and stupid opponent. Pikachu fights Dragonite, and still fights like this. It will lose. Nero, who lost the game, but has not left yet, looked at this fighting style, and couldn't help shaking his head. Really? Sharona shook her head in disbelief. All life will meet other life and produce something. The bond between Pokémon and trainer is the most shining point. Can this boy and his Pikachu do it? Yu's Dragonite is already a little tired. At this time, it can attack at close range. However, there are only a few Pokémon who can catch this opportunity. Those who can believe that their Pokémon can catch it are either ignorant and too powerful, or too deep in bond. In the expectation of everyone's attention is focused on Dragonite and Pikachu. The final result can only depend on them. A firm call sounded on the field, and the lightning jumped. Pikachu seized the fleeting opportunity, jumped onto Dragonite's tail, and grabbed Dragonite's tail tightly. Now, thunder. Pikachu, a strong electric current burst out from Pikachu's body, spreading throughout the field. Dragonite endured it, paralyzed all over, and then fell straight to the ground. Pikachu, give him the final blow, Irontail. Zyos, he said. Pikachu turned handsomely in the air and hit Dragonite's head hard with his tail, knocking Dragonite to the ground. Chapter 102, Ancestral Skills of Zenxin Town. Pikachu's Irontail smashed Dragonite into the ground, and immediately smoke and dust billowed. When the smoke and dust cleared, Pikachu stood proudly on Dragonite's head, looking very proud. The surroundings were infinitely quiet at first, and then a tsunami of discussion broke out. Damn, I didn't see it wrong. Pikachu actually beat Dragonite. Pikachu, can't it only be a pet for girls? It can actually beat Dragonite. Am I dazzled? Pikachu, you are so amazing. Dad, I want Pikachu as my first Pokémon in the future. Okay, my daughter, Dad will buy you two, one for fighting, and one for playing. Thank you, Dad. You really seized the opportunity. Sharona's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a beautiful smile. It's just luck. Niall said sourly. Luck is also a kind of strength, and this is not only luck, but the result of the joint efforts of Pokémon and trainers. With such a bond and ability, plus the Charizard just now, it will be a good opponent in 10 years. Sharona said. Zyos' current strength is nothing in front of her. Even if only the weakest main Pokémon goes up, it can easily get 6 in a row. But the problem is that Zyos is only 10 years old. There is a golden period for the growth of any trainer and Pokémon. Zyos is just starting, and Sharona's golden period is not long. Both the strength of the Pokémon and herself are about to reach a bottleneck. On the field, Yu was also stunned, took back the Dragonite, looked at Zyos and said, Pikachu, when did you learn Irontail? Last time, after the game with you? Didn't you suggest that Pikachu learn Iron Tail? So I'll let Pikachu practice Iron Tail. Zyozzy said. So you learned it? Yu's expression was strange. Raichu has been learning for so long, with professional teaching, but he has even learned the Destruction Death Ray, but he didn't learn Iron Tail. Is it so easy for you? Yes. Zyozzy said as a matter of course. Isn't this a very simple thing? Next, it's my turn to counterattack. I will get it back in one go. Zyozzy's blood was surging, and his face was full of passion. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Don't let me defeat you again. Stottle, show up. Yu threw the Pokeball, a red light flashed, and Stottle appeared on the field. Stottle? Zyozzy's expression was a little blank. I have Pikachu here, and you sent Stottle? Did you use the right Pokémon? After a long pause, Zyozzy said, Yu, electric types are good against water? Did you use the right Pokémon? Huh? Zyozzy, you know that electric types are good against water? Yu looked surprised, and his expression was like Columbus discovering the new world. Of course, isn't this common sense? Zyozzy said. Oh, Yu showed a meaningful expression. You go first. Okay, Pikachu, 100,000 volts. Take care of Stottle. Zyozzy said. Pikachu. Pikachu roared, and the electricity on his body surged, swallowing Stottle. Stottle, bubble beam. Yu said. Stottle's eyes widened, and a series of colorful bubbles and 100,000 volts collided head-on. The bubbles and currents intersected, and colorful light burst out, blocking Pikachu and Stottle at the same time. The two trainers and the audience around them could not see the specific content of the game. Bang! Yu smiled slightly, and snapped his fingers as planned. Then, the screams of Pikachu in the bubbles were heard one after another. Pikachu, what's wrong? Zyozzy didn't understand, and shouted anxiously, and said with his last breath, Pikachu, use all your strength, 100,000 volts, destroy everything. Pikachu shouted hard, and the terrifying current burst out from the field, clearing all the obstructions, and its body reappeared in front of everyone. But Stottle was not seen, and there were only several holes on the ground. Dig a hole. This idea emerged in the minds of the commentator and the audience around. Rocket headbutt. Yu ordered brazenly, and a sleek blue head suddenly jumped up from under Pikachu's feet, hitting Pikachu with a white light, knocking Pikachu into the sky. Pikachu then turned over and fell to the ground, with four legs facing the sky, revealing a pair of background eyes. Pikachu lost the ability to fight. It was an unexpected battle. Yu's Dragonite lost to Zyozzy's Pikachu, but he used Squirtle to successfully counterattack despite the disadvantageous attributes. In this case, Zyozzy lost 4 Pokémon, while Yu only lost 1 Dragonite. Can Zyozzy turn the tide next? The commentator explained seriously, always feeling that the trend of the game was very strange. Thank you for your hard work, Pikachu. Zyozzy personally went down to the field to hold Pikachu back, comforted him softly, then turned around and took out a Pokeball, threw it out and said, "Smelly mud, I leave it to you." A red light flashed, and a large ball of purple mud with a foul smell appeared on the field. Faced with Yu's strong strength, Zyozzy chose Muddy as his 5th Pokémon. Muddy is a poison-type Pokémon, and it has neither advantages nor disadvantages against water-type Pokémon. What was Zyozzy thinking? The commentator said, "Muddy Bomb." Zyozzy issued an attack command. What was he thinking? What else could he think? There were only a few Pokémon in total, and his Bulbasaur, which could restrain water-type Pokémon, was blown up by Yu's Dragonite at the beginning of the game, and the rest were the same. Muddy opened its bloody mouth, and sprayed many poisonous sludge bombs. Dig a hole. Yu's command sounded quickly. Squirtle immediately lowered his head and dug a hole, and in an instant he drilled into the ground and calmly dodged. Muddy, calm down, look around, and observe where Squirtle will appear. Zyozzy said calmly. Muddy did not respond, but agreed in his heart, and looked around carefully. Yu showed an expression of disbelief. This Muddy Mud was also a magical existence. Before being captured, it was the leader of the Muddy Mud army. After being captured, it inexplicably became a logistics servant of the Oak Research Institute, a clinging goblin. Its strength is not bad, but although the poison system and the water system are not mutually exclusive, they are restrained by the ground system's special moves. Bang, a violent explosion sounded, and Squirtle flew out from the ground and hit Muddy Mud violently. Muddy immediately showed a painful expression on his face. Muddy Mud, hold on, absorb it completely. Zyos, he shouted. Muddy understood and softened its already unspeakably soft body completely, absorbing Squirtle's powerful impact force and absorbing Squirtle into its body. A little effort can achieve a great result. In the last game, he solved the opponent's trumpet sprouts in this way. Zyos, he is really smart. He used the soft body of the stinky slime to completely absorb Squirtle's attack, so that Squirtle's attack is completely ineffective. The commentator explained hard, trying to answer every trick. Use the station pressure now. Zyos, he said. Use the water gun at the deepest part of the stinky slime. You shouted. An angry voice sounded from the stinky slime's body, followed by a stream of water rushing out of the stinky slime, and then a rotating turtle shell flew out of the stinky slime's body, spinning while firing a fierce stream of water to attack the stinky slime, knocking the stinky slime to the wall on the side. The stinky slime fell limply to the ground, with a pair of round eyes, completely losing its ability to fight. And Squirtle didn't have time to share any happiness and joy. He stood on the ground, stuck his head out of the turtle shell, and breathed in the fresh air in big gulps. It was so stinking. That place is really not for turtles. Yu was stunned. The trick just now was a water cannon? When did he learn it? Faced with a desperate situation, he suddenly knew how to do it? As expected, if you don't face a desperate situation, you won't be able to play the series. In the future, will you artificially create a desperate situation? Chapter 103, A Struggle to the End. Although Zyos had a good idea, he still lost in the face of absolute strength. Squirtle used water cannon to defeat Zyos' Mud. Now Zyos only has one Pokémon left. What else can he do next? Squirtle, I'll leave it to you in the end. Zyos solemnly released his last Pokémon. The red Squirtle appeared on the field, waving its huge claws to show its strong power. Zyos' last Pokémon is Squirtle. His big claws have a power of 10,000 horsepower. Can such a powerful force save the situation for Zyos? Squirtle, use water gun. Zyos said. Pikachu's failure made him realize that his league meeting would almost stop here. But even so, he had to play with all his strength. Because he wanted to become a Pokémon master. Squirtle raised its huge red claws and sprayed a thick and strong water column straight towards Squirtle. Squirtle, water cannon. Squirtle spun rapidly, and 4 strong streams of water shot out from its shell, hitting the crab with its own high-speed rotation force. The crab suffered several attacks, and a slightly uncomfortable expression appeared on its face, but that was all. As a water type, even the water cannon would not cause much damage to it. Crab punch. Zyos threw his fist with passion, trying to pass his passion to the crab. The crab's crab legs moved quickly, and a dazzling white light shone from its huge claws. Then it jumped up suddenly, and hit Squirtle with force. Dodge. Squirtle was spinning at high speed, and the water in its shell was turbulent. It used a stronger force to dodge directly. The crab was strong and powerful, but its weakness was also obvious. Unless it was in the water, it was slow and the hit effect was not high. Ming was a physical attack. So generally speaking, as long as it was not encountered in the water, it was not a big threat. Squirtle, keep the water cannon at a high speed. Yu ordered decisively. There was no suspense in this match. If the opponent was not Zyos, or if Yu did not want to train Stottle, Yu would simply change Pokémon and defeat it in one go. But even so, Zyos might not be able to cope with it. Zyos, let me see your fighting style. Giant crab, harden, accept it all. Zyos shouted. A white light flashed on the body of the giant crab, and its physique became stronger, continuing to withstand the damage of the water cannon. Yu frowned slightly. Hardening, in pure theory, only enhances physical defense, but in reality, many times, physical properties are inseparable, especially the water cannon relies on the impact of water, and hardening can really withstand it. So this is a gamble. Will Stottle's physical strength be exhausted first, or will a giant crab be unable to bear it first? Yu did not change the command, just watching Stottle continue to attack. He also wanted to know who couldn't bear it. Where is Stottle's limit? Time passed. Stottle continued to attack, and the giant crab kept bearing it, without any extra changes. It was known that Stottle's attack suddenly stopped for a moment. Zyos's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "Giant crab, now is the time to destroy the death beam." With a sharp look in his eyes, Giant Crab suddenly raised his thick claws, and the orange-yellow destructive energy condensed, and suddenly burst out, spraying out an orange-yellow destructive beam, which hit Stottle, who was running out of energy due to excessive use of water cannons. Stottle flew backwards, revealing a pair of big circular eyes, and completely lost his ability to fight. What a fierce attack. Zyos's giant crab is worthy of being a Pokémon that can defeat 3 Pokémon of the opponent in the preliminary round, and successfully defeated Yu Stottle. Now Yu has 4 Pokémon left, which one will he send out? The commentator wanted to create a sense of urgency, but he couldn't say it. Unless the remaining 4 were Magikarp, there would be no suspense in this game. The audience was not enthusiastic either. Thank you for your hard work, Squirtle. Yu took back Squirtle and thought that his physical strength was still a little insufficient, and he needed to strengthen his training. In addition, the power of the water cannon needed to be continuously developed, and there was also a place for rotation. After he had a vague idea in his mind, Yu took out the treasure ball of the fiery horse and said, "Finally, fiery horse, come on." A red light flashed, and the fiery horse appeared in the field, with its flaming mane shaking, looking extremely majestic. "Giant crab, use the water gun." Zyos, he shouted. It was a fire type, maybe he could win. The giant crab raised its huge claws, and sprayed out a fierce water column again. "Fiery horse, move at high speed to avoid it, and then it will be sunny." The fiery horse ran fast, turned into a hot red light, and its speed soared. It calmly avoided the giant crab's water gun, and then the horse neared at the first draft, and the sun in the sky suddenly became hotter. "Giant crab, crab fist." Zyos, he shouted. The giant crab moved quickly, and raised its big claws, wanting to teach the fiery horse a lesson with one punch. Flame vortex. Unfortunately, before they got close, Yu gave another order. Flame Horse blew out a huge vortex of flames, which turned into a storm and wrapped up the giant crab. When the flames dispersed, the giant crab turned from red to black and fell straight down. The giant crab has completely lost its ability to fight. Zyos's 6 Pokémon have completely failed. Yu directly advances to the next round. At the same time, in this game, Yu only used 3 Pokémon from beginning to end. He has never used the specified number of Pokémon since he participated in the competition. This is the first time he has used 3 Pokémon to fight. So in the next game, can we see him fight with 4 Pokémon? The commentator made a final summary and aroused the audience's expectations for Yu's next game. He is experienced. Yu put away the Pokéball and walked towards Zyos and said, "Are you disappointed? Are you frustrated?" Zyos looked up at Yu and didn't want to talk to Yu at all. Although he had expected the result halfway through the game, it would be strange if he felt good after being defeated like this. Now Yu is actively teasing him. If he can beat him, he really wants to beat him. "Want to beat me?" As if he could see Zyos' thoughts, Yu smiled and said with an expression that he deserved a beating. Zyos really clenched his fists. Yu took Zyos' reaction into his eyes and said with a raised corner of his mouth, "Then let's speak with strength." The Pokémon League conference is not something you can make it to the end by relying on luck, wild intuition and other things. After returning to Pallet Town for a few months, you have been shouting about independent training every day, but you haven't trained for a single day. If you don't lose the game like this, who will lose? When you train, you fish for 3 days and dry the net for 2 days. Can you become a Pokémon master like this? Have you made a correct training plan for your Pokémon? It means training every day, not training at the last minute after failure. At the end, Yu's tone gradually became stern and said, "If you want to beat me, train the Pokémon in your hands well. Becoming a Pokémon master is not just a dream. Show me your ability. Next time, I will definitely beat you." Zyos, he shouted. "Then let me see. If you want to defeat me, you must have 3 Pokémon as powerful as Charizard. Otherwise it's wishful thinking." Yu provoked, then left in a sprint. Chapter 104. Am I big? Your Haunter. In the evening, after dinner, Yu was about to return to the bedroom. Just as he walked to the dormitory building, he saw a ghost-like thing thrown at him. Yu looked at Ghastly with a look of disappointment. How many times has this happened? Can't you be honest? No way. You, a single dog, can't experience the joy of love at all. For love, even if you give up your life, it's nothing. Ghastly said loudly, as if he was a fighter fighting for love. You two are different species, and you still love? Yu raised his eyebrows. Feudal stubbornness. In front of true love, age is not a problem, gender is not a problem, and species is even less of a problem. Besides, as long as a few hundred years pass, Sister Evie will die, and we can be together well. Species is not a problem either. Ghastly said. Huh. Yu was stunned. He really hadn't thought about this. Then he was stunned and looked at Sharona and said, I think what it said makes sense. Why don't you think about it carefully? No way. Your haunter is not normal. Sharona looked resistant, like an old mother protecting her calf. I'll try my best to discipline you. If it doesn't work, just try your best to beat him. As long as you don't kill him, it's fine. Yu said. Sharona glared at Yu unhappily and said, don't do it again next time. Then why don't you give me Evie? Yu said. Sharona, who was about to leave, heard the words, and turned to look at Yu. Her eyes seemed to be looking at a fool. Are you kidding me? My Pokémon, I'm just giving it to you for nothing. Are you beautiful? Someone owes me a bet. Yu said with a smile. Sharona's expression froze. How could she forget this? Immediately, Sharona smiled again. Oh, who is that someone? Do I know him? Is he pretty? This time it was Yu's turn to be dazed. You can't afford to play? Sharona smiled slightly. Her smile was as beautiful as a painting. You are right. I just can't afford to play. You hit me? Children are children. Don't you know that being unreasonable is a girl's privilege? Is it really okay for you to do this? Yu said. Very good. Sharona smiled. Compared with losing Ibrahimovic, everything else was nothing. You won. Yu said. He just said it casually. There was no truth in it. He just didn't expect Sharona to be so decisive. Sure enough, the champions and the four kings were more shameless than each other. Even the future champions were the same. If you change the conditions, maybe I can help you find that person, to have a good talk. Sharona said. You should talk about it later. After all, the conditions of that person also have to wait until I win the championship. Yu said. 2 Pokémon of the Quasi-King level, as long as the opponent is not a monster, there is basically no problem. It's just that you use Dragonite to clear the field, which is not good for other Pokémon to train, which is not conducive to your performance in the Champions League. Although Dragonite is strong, it can only be considered average in the Champions League. Sharona said. If I train other Pokémon now, can I let them improve to the Quasi-King strength before the Champions League? Yu asked back. It's difficult, but if you don't improve, you will definitely lose miserably in a 6-6 draw. Sharona said solemnly. The battles in the Champions League and the Pokémon League Conference are 2 different levels of difficulty. In the Pokémon League Conference, a Pokémon with Quasi-King strength can be used as a trump card, and it can basically guarantee that it will reach the top 16. But in the Champions League, everyone has a Pokémon with Quasi-King strength, and there is no advantage in clearing the field. If there are other shortcomings, it is normal to be knocked down by several elite Pokémon wheels. So I only focus on 3-on-3, 6-on-6. I give up. Yu said. As a person, you still have to have some act in your heart. With the current lineup, it's okay to play 3-on-3, 6-on-6. That's really going to be abused. So instead of specifically filling in the shortcomings, it's better to improve the strengths first. You just want a qualification, right? Then play the next round in a few years. Sharona suddenly said. That's right. After all, I'm still young. There's still a lot of time. Yu said. Young? Sharona thought so, but then she thought about it and felt something was wrong. Not focusing on 6-on-6 is young. Then I focus on 6-on-6. What is it? There is no next chance. At that moment, with her eyebrows raised, she looked at Yu with a hint of unkindness and said, You mean, I'm big? Big? Yu was slightly stunned, looked at Sharona seriously, and then shook her head and said, No, it's normal size. Not even half of Sister Kona. Normal size. Sharona was stunned at first. What normal size? Then she looked down along Yuyu's gaze and immediately reacted. Two blushes quickly appeared on her cheeks. Not knowing whether it was anger or shame, she roared, "Stinky boy, where are you looking? Isn't it?" Yuyu realized that the situation was not good and ran away. Sharona looked at Yuyu, who quickly disappeared from her sight, and she was powerless. In the end, she could only exhale a few breaths in anger, gritting her teeth and said, "What kind of Pokémon trainer you have? What kind of Pokémon you have? The upper beam is not straight and the lower beam is crooked." Yuyu, who fled back to his dormitory, was still in shock. Why is it so difficult to be a real person these days? To be honest, why are you so angry? Besides, it's not that the bigger this thing is, the better. Too big is not good for the body. A normal proportion is fine. He breathed a sigh of relief, released Raichu and held him in his arms. Raichu is still the best. It's gentle, well behaved, and obedient. Warm and caring. And it won't get jealous. If you can learn more from Zyos's Pikachu, you will be the well-deserved master of the harem. Thinking of this, Yuyu subconsciously rubbed Raichu's tender cheek with an intoxicated and happy expression on his face. As expected, among all the good things, Pokémon is still the best. I already have Pokémon. What do I need a woman for? Is she as cute as Pokémon, or is she as good at fighting as Pokémon? Besides, I can't have 3,000 wives, but I can have 3,000 Pokémon beauties in my harem. Just raise a group of them, and don't have to worry about jealousy in the palace. Isn't it wonderful? The Raichu in Yuyu's arms rubbed Yuyu's cheek, and his face also showed a happy and intoxicated expression. It's still the most comfortable in Yuyu's arms. If only it could always be like this. Tomorrow, I will play against Yuyu. Xiaomao was looking at the battle groups listed on the electronic display screen in the hall, his face full of fighting spirit. Finally, this day has come. After the hard training in the Hanglian gym, it's finally time to see the results. Yuyu, wait, my wind speed dog will scare you. At the same time, an old man who just got off the plane and came to the main venue took off his wig and showed an interesting expression on his face. It should be fun for two little brats to fight. I haven't been here for so long. Find some people and have a quarrel. Chapter 105, Speedy Battle. The Kanto Quartz Grand Semi-Finals officially begins. Now, please invite the players from both teams to come on stage. The red team is Yuyu, a genius trainer who has won every battle since we started fighting and has never used 4 Pokémon. The green team is Xiaomao, who is also famous for his genius. In this competition, Xiaomao defeated the opponent with precise tactics and the cooperation of each Pokémon. He is also the grandson of the famous Professor Oak. Can he defeat Yuyu? The commentator passionately explained and turned the camera to Professor Oak in the audience. Professor Oak quickly covered his face, but Anako stole the spotlight and took a photo. What? The information collection is so incomplete. Why don't you say that Yuyu is the grandson of the 4 heavenly kings? Xiaomao pouted, the commentator said, as if he relied on his grandfather. Xiaomao, it's great. The 6 beautiful cheerleaders cheered hard. Yuyu's expression darkened slightly. Is it great to have a girlfriend? In the end, I went to study, and I didn't bring any. Dragonite, make your debut. Yuyu threw Dragonite out, and Dragonite stood on the stage in a daze. Yuyu's strategy seems to be the same as the last game, both using Dragonite as the first. So how will Xiaomao deal with it? Will he be suppressed by Dragonite like Xiozhi? What nonsense are you talking about? I won't be like that idiot Xiozhi, wasting 2 Pokémon in vain. Windy Dog, let him know what real speed is. Xiaomao threw the Pokéball, and a red light flashed. The majestic Windy Dog appeared on the field, with its flaxen mane shaking, and its sharp eyes formed a sharp contrast with Dragonite's silly eyes. Real speed. Dragonite super speed. Yuyu said. Dragonite's eyes instantly changed from simple and honest to sharp, and the small wings on its back vibrated, turning into a white light, and rushed towards Windy Dog aggressively. Windy Dog, we also use super speed. Xiaomao shouted. Arcanine's eyes were sharp, and in an instant they turned into white light. Its sharp claws and fangs became the supreme attacking weapons, and fought against Dragonite. The two white lights intersected and crisscrossed, and the speed was so fast that it was dazzling and overwhelming. Speed showdown. What a fast speed. Sasaki in the audience was surprised. If he was so fast, he would not be punched one by one. Of course, speed is faster than a flash of lightning. If you use it first in the game, you can basically cause a preemptive attack, and the effect is superb. Professor Oak said, this is his most proud tactic. Speed cleared the field, and it was with this tactic that Zybo went home directly. Which one is more advantageous when both of them can use speed? Lilia asked curiously. Of course it's Arcanine. The first Pokémon that can use the speed trick is Arcanine. A voice sounded from the back row. Professor Oak turned around and saw the other person clearly. He was immediately happy and said, oh, you are willing to come out of Hanglian Island? I thought you would live in Hanglian Island for retirement and never come out for the rest of your life. You can come out of Pallet Town, so what's wrong with me coming out of Hanglian Island? Zybo leaned back in his chair lazily. Look carefully, this person, he can't even teach his own grandson well, and he wants to send him to Hanglian Island to be my student. He is really bad. That means that this person is misleading the students. When he first participated in the league conference, he was defeated in the top 16. He still has the nerve to teach others. Professor Oak shook his head and sighed. Anytime you talk about the past, it only shows one thing, that is, it's not okay now. That's why you keep talking about the past. After all, if it's okay now, why talk about the past? Zybo looked at Professor Oak with a dagger in his smile. But this person didn't even have it back then, so isn't it even worse now? Professor Oak did not show any weakness. Bang! Just as Professor Oak and Zybo were arguing with each other, a violent sound rang out on the field. Professor Oak and Zybo didn't care about fighting anymore, and their attention shifted to the competition field. Windy Dog's head hit Dragonite violently, and then Dragonite's fist hit Dragonite's chin almost at the same time. The two Pokémon retreated one after another, and there was no winner. Your tactics failed. Don't think that I'm Zyozzy, that guy. You can use Dragonite to clean up casually. Zyomao looked at Yu with a proud face and said, you said that, as if you have taken a big advantage. Beat my Dragonite first. Yu said, I'll beat you now. Windy Dog, super fast. Zyomao shouted, and successfully matched Yu's Dragonite, which greatly boosted his confidence. Windy Dog ran quickly, turned into a white light, and pounced on Dragonite violently. Dragonite, fly. Yu said. Dragonite's small wings vibrated, and it sped up suddenly, flying into the sky, leaving Windy Dog empty. Flying shows a huge advantage in the battle. If you have the guts, fly up and hit me. Wind speed, Dragon's fury. Zyomau's command sounded. Although we can't fly, we can also perform long-range attacks. Wind speed roared, and the strong dragon power gathered in the air, and then turned into a tornado, attacking Dragonite in the sky. Dragonite, keep flying upwards. Yu said. Dragonite made a joyful cry, turned into a white light, flew straight up, disappeared from everyone's sight, and directly escaped from the attack range of the tornado. This is too high. Zyozzy was surprised in the audience. This is the advantage of flying. It is an advantage that, even if the Pokémon on the ground run faster, they can't catch up. Professor Oak said. He has a deep understanding of this. At the beginning, it was not much stronger than Zybo, mainly because Dragonite could fly freely, and then cooperate with long-range attacks to suppress wind speed. Zyozzy nodded. It can fly, and Charizard can fly. Sure enough, it is better to train Charizard. However, Pikachu cannot fly, but the current is strong enough to restrain flying. But the Pokémon League Conference stipulates that players must attack. If you fly too high, it's useless. You have to come down. Zyanagang said. If it's a battle in the wild, you can fly high and escape. But there are still rules for the league battle. You must attack. You can't just stay in the sky or underground without attacking. Yes, but Dragonite is not only capable of speed and close combat. Professor Oak said proudly. Pray for rain. As if to verify Professor Oak's words, Yu continued to issue instructions. Suddenly, the already gloomy weather became even worse, and the drizzle of rain floated from the sky. The flaxen mane of the wind speed dog on the ground was stained with rain, and he immediately showed an anxious expression. Wind speed dog, sunny day, fight for control of the weather. Xiaomao said. You can control the weather, and so can I. Wind speed dog roared at the sky with a low and majestic roar, trying to roar away the dark clouds and call back the sun. Pray for rain. Yu ordered the same thing, as if he was fighting for the weather like Xiaomao. Professor Oak, Xiaobo and others in the audience shook their heads after hearing this. If this goes on, the winner will be decided again. Xiaobo sighed and said with regret, both of them are my students, but the actual performance gap is so big. It turns out that someone's genes are not good. I shouldn't have been soft-hearted at the beginning. This person's genes are so bad. Alas, Professor Oak also sighed. It's all my fault. I was too stupid and naive. I thought that someone was a king at least. If he had some strength, it would not be a bad thing to let my grandson learn from him and learn from the strengths of many people. So I didn't stop him. I didn't expect that he was so useless. Once he met the students I taught, he was no good all of a sudden. I should have taught him better myself. What are you talking about? What's wrong with this game? Praying for rain means it rains, and sunny days mean it's sunny. Is there any big problem? Xiaozi looked at the two people in confusion. Can anyone explain what happened? Don't talk to yourself. I don't understand you. Professor Oak didn't answer, but pointed to the field, where the drizzle had turned into heavy rain. Chapter 106. Mixed but not pure, many but not strong. Why is that? When we were on Red Lotus Island, Arcanine was able to take back the control of the weather with Sunny Day. Xiaomao looked at Dayu in disbelief. Because Red Lotus Island itself has clear skies, so of course it's good for you to use Sunny Day. But didn't you check the recent weather forecast? It's drizzling today, cloudy tomorrow, and sunny the day after tomorrow. So you're going to lose to a normal Pokémon that can control the weather. After all, Pokémon can only change the original weather slightly and can't go back completely. If they can, they definitely won't appear here. Yu said. Being able to change the weather drastically is something that the mythical beasts can do. They can even change the climate. But how can these Pokémon at the League Conference do that? So I lost to luck? Xiaomao said. No, it's not just that. There's also a little problem with your command. The weather can't be changed at will. You should wait until Dragonite's rain prayer is weakened before you take it. After all, it's stupid to take the weather away from Dragonite with the same strength. Yu said. Why? Dragonite's previous evolution, Hacken, has the ability to control the weather, but after Hacken evolved into Dragonite, it lost the ability to control the weather and had to use the rain prayer skill. Why not? Xiaomao said. Yes, when it was Hacken, it had the ability to easily control the weather because of the orbs that appeared naturally on its body, but once it evolved, it would lose this ability. However, because it has been carried for a long time, Dragonite is still better than most Pokémon in controlling the weather. You are very brave to fight against Dragonite when you were robbed first. Yu said. Even if the weather was robbed by you, so what? Strength is the foundation. If you have the ability, don't come down. Windy Dog uses the most powerful dragon's fury. Xiaomao shouted. Windy Dog roared, and the light green dragon energy gathered and burst out into a tornado, blowing into the sky. Dragonite must come down if it wants to win, otherwise it will only be a draw if it stays up there. Don't be so anxious. If the weather is good, I will go down, even if you don't chase me away. Dragonite, 100,000 volts. Yu said. Dragonite let out a high-pitched cry and descended from the sky. Two tentacles on its head emitted strong electric currents, which suddenly exploded and collided violently with Arcanine's Dragon Fury, cancelling each other out and causing a strong smoke to block the view. 100,000 volts. Yu shouted loudly. There was water everywhere. In this environment, 100,000 volts could always hit the target. Moreover, in this environment, the power of lightning was greatly improved, which was considered a hidden bonus. It was a pity that Dragonite could not thunder, otherwise, Arcanine would fly into the sky with this one shot. Arcanine, come back. Xiaomao quickly took out the Pokeball, and a red light flashed, and Arcanine was taken back directly. Although he could not determine the specific location in the smoke, he could determine the approximate location by feeling, and the Pokeball could be taken back directly. 100,000 volts was everywhere, but it had no effect. At the critical moment, Xiaomao took back Windy Dog and avoided Dragonite's powerful 100,000 volts. But in this case, what kind of Pokémon should Xiaomao send out to turn the situation around? The commentator explained. Xiaomao put away Windy Dog and breathed a sigh of relief. He would wait until the weather passed before sending Windy Dog. Now he would delay time. Replace the appropriate Pokémon. But which one should he use? In rainy weather, it would be best to use water Pokémon, but Dragonite can use 100,000 volts. Sending water Pokémon to the field is courting death. For defense against electricity, Nidoking may repeat the situation last time. If Raiden is used, it has both rock and ground attributes. Even if Dragonite does not attack, the water alone can hurt Raiden, and such Raiden cannot attack Dragonite at all. The advantage of flying is too great. If you want to deal with Dragonite, you must also be able to fly. Toucan and Scyther, they all have flying attributes, and will be restrained by electricity. Xiaomao's brain was working at high speed. After going through all the Pokémon he had, and even in the research institute, he found that none of them was suitable for the current situation. In the end, he could only throw a Pokeball and said, "My sweetheart, Scyther, I leave everything to you." A flash of light appeared in the air. 3 minutes later, Scyther was defeated. Then, Nidoking appeared on the field. 3 minutes later, Nidoking was defeated. "You used Dragonite is so strong. Zyos," he exclaimed sincerely. It turns out that in addition to close combat, electric shock is also so powerful. Xiaomao's state is not right. He has begun to fall into self-denial. Professor Oak said with a slightly serious look on his face. "It's not because of you that you taught me that I'm not pure and I'm not strong, because I have many." A trainer who has just debuted has captured so many Pokémon and shared their love among them equally, so his energy is naturally scattered. Although his overall strength is not bad, much better than that young man in a hat, he is average and not outstanding. When facing an opponent who is similar to him, he can use a variety of Pokémon to cooperate with tactics to defeat the opponent, but once the opponent is much stronger, it will become that every Pokémon is a little bit worse, and every Pokémon is not good enough. Zybo said. This time, Professor Oak did not argue with Zybo again, but said, he has his own way to go. Although he is my grandson, I can't decide his life. Many things must be experienced by him before they count. Moreover, there are as many training methods as there are trainers. We are not qualified to say that any training method is wrong. Even if Xiaomao's training method has some problems, Professor Oak will not stop it when it is not big enough. Because any innovation will be questioned and denied when it first comes out. If everything is done according to the past, it means there is no progress. Professor Oak doesn't think he is always right, so he never denies Xiaomao's training. And Xiaomao's idea is indeed good, to capture enough Pokémon and use the powerful ones. However, taking turns to use them has certainly enhanced the overall strength of Pokémon, but the highest value of Pokémon has not been improved. This eventually led to the current somewhat embarrassing situation. I hope this defeat will make Xiaomao grow up. Traveling with the goal of becoming a Pokémon master is not tourism. Driving a sports car, taking 6 girlfriends, traveling around, soaking in hot springs, staying in hotels. You are too naive. Chapter 107 Xiaomao's Journey. Xiaomao's 6 Pokémon have completely lost their ability to fight. Yu won the semi-finals of the Quartz Conference League, and Yu still didn't use the 4th Pokémon. So in this game, is there anyone who can force Yu to use the 4th Pokémon? Let's wait and see. The commentator used all his skills to stir up the audience's expectations for the next game. The game between Yu and Xiaomao also came to an end. Xiaomao took back his Pokémon in frustration, then turned around and walked towards the sports car with his backpack without looking back. You lost, so you're leaving without chatting with me. Yu followed him and said, "What's there to chat about? Losing is losing. A proper failure only makes me more powerful to reach the top. Next time we meet, I will defeat you with a stronger force." Xiaomao said, and got into the luxury car and drove away with his 6 girlfriends. Just leaving like that, without saying goodbye to Professor Oak. Lilia, who also followed, asked in confusion. Of course, Xiaomao has always been proud. If he wins the game, he might say goodbye, but if he loses, he certainly won't. Only he knows his sadness. Yu said. But I think you know it, Yu. Xiaozu said. It seems that I understand him too well. But let's save it for next time. I just don't know if there will be a next time. Yu's expression was a little complicated. He thought about letting Xiaomao win. But before the game, Professor Oak suddenly found him and told him to beat Xiaomao with all his strength. Let Xiaomao know that traveling is not tourism. He really didn't let Xiaomao win at all. Dragonite and Haunter cooperated, and Raichu's 100,000 volts dominated the whole field without losing a single one. After all, the Quasi-King Pokémon is an absolute trump card in the League Conference. In the Johto Silver Conference, Xiao's Snorlax easily solved 2 opponents, and the failure of the third one was also due to Xiao's command to a certain extent. The level of the Quartz Conference was slightly lower. Why won't there be a next time? You and Xiaomao have a good relationship and are of the same age, so there will definitely be a chance. Lily said. Who can say what will happen in the future? Yu looked at the direction where Xiaomao left, thoughtfully. If there is a next time with Xiaozi, you can be sure that there will be. But Xiaomao, it's hard to say. After the Quartz Conference, Yu's next step is to go to Alala, participate in the island tour, and obtain the Z bracelet and Z pure crystal. There is no need to go to the Orange Islands. Then go to Sinnoh to participate in the Champions League. Most likely, he will not participate in the Chengdu League. Instead, he may go directly to Kalos and study Super Evolution while playing in the Kalos League. As for Xiaomao, if everything remains the same, without any changes, after the Johto Silver Conference, he will change his life path and follow Professor Oak's old path to become a researcher. In other words, this game is their first serious 6-on-6 game, but it may also be their last official game. The last game? Yu turned and left with a complicated expression. Xiaomao drove away in a sports car, using a smile to cover up his failure and loss. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. Xiaomao frowned slightly, picked up the phone, and saw that it was sent by Yu. His expression was even weirder. He subconsciously didn't want to read it, but he still instinctively clicked it, and a photo appeared in his sight. Then Xiaomao didn't keep his balance and drove directly into a tree, shocking the 6 girlfriends behind him to scream. But Xiaomao didn't care at all, but lowered his head and looked at the photo seriously. The Blastoise with an unimaginably thick barrel. How could there be such a Blastoise? Is it a mutation? The super evolved Blastoise, after evolution, has power far beyond that of ordinary Pokémon, with a range of up to 10 kilometers and infinite power. In the Kalos region, if you get the Super Evolution Stone and the Evolution Keystone, you can make any Blastoise complete the Super Evolution. Looking at the 2 sentences in the picture note, Xiaomao raised his eyebrows, and he knew where his next travel destination was. See you next time. The moonlit night was quiet, and the moonlight like water was scattered on the ground. Yu lay on the balcony, closed his eyes quietly, and felt everything. I don't know if it's because he became a ghost messenger. Yu found that he liked the night more and more. At the same time, he liked the moonlight more and more. If he traveled through the world of monsters instead of Pokémon, Yu felt that he would absorb the essence of the sun and the moon to become a monster. Speaking of which, Yu was really curious about what would happen after he died. Ghosts exist in this world, and now Yu's state is very complicated. He once asked Giratina specifically about this, but unfortunately Giratina's answer to him was I haven't died, how do I know? And then there was no result. But things after death. Let's talk about it after death. Now enjoy the moonlight first. Yu. Lilia's voice suddenly sounded. Yu turned his head and looked, and said, what's wrong? Is there something you want to talk to me about so late? I want to tell you that my mother called me and told me that the Pokémon school has been repaired and asked me to go back to school next week. Lilia said hesitantly. So, you're going back to Alala next week? Yu nodded. That's good. You've been out for so long. You must miss your friends in Alala. So, you said you'd go home with me and visit Alala. Will you be free after the Pokémon League tournament? Lily said a little nervously. Yes, I'm free. Then, we'll go back together. Yu said. This was originally in the plan. Really go back together? Lily said with joy. Yes, go back together. Yu said. Didn't we agree on this in the morning? That's good. It's okay. I'm leaving. See you tomorrow. Lily said. Okay, see you tomorrow. Yu smiled and said hello. There are a lot of things to do in Alala. You have to collect the Z bracelet and Z pure crystal and see if there is a way to heal Lily's psychological trauma. If possible, it would be better to catch an Ultra Beast. After all, Ultra Beasts, in theory, are all 3rd level gods. In addition, I want to see Mama Bear and Doll Bear, who are the main players scheduled in the early stage. Yu smiled and fell asleep. After that, the Pokémon finals officially began. Under the expectation of everyone, Yu controlled his mood a little and walked onto the competition stage. Finally, it's here. Although it's expected. But playing it yourself and planning a simulation are still very different. When I was a child, I watched the animation and Ozzy failed again and again and never made it to the finals. He finally made it to the finals in the Kalos League, but he encountered a water storing spray. He almost got angry. He had to watch fanfiction to vent his anger. Now it's my turn to come up, and the championship is set. Chapter 108 The Tough Gyarados. The Quartz Conference Finals officially begins. The red team is Yu, who has never used a 4th Pokémon since participating in the competition, and the green team is Hainan, who is good at water-type Pokémon. I wonder who will win this game. The commentator briefly introduced the situation of both sides to the audience. Yu looked at Hainan thoughtfully. He has a lot of information about this person, not only collected from the league, but also from Mewtwo. He is a trainer that Mewtwo thinks is quite powerful. He is good at water attributes, and his main trump card is Gyarados. It's just that I don't know if he was originally the champion of this conference, or because of his own reasons. There was a butterfly effect. The order of both sides will be randomly determined. Hainan will release his Pokémon first, and Yu will go second. I'll attack first, and Gyarados, everything is up to you. Hainan took out a Pokéball from his waist and threw it out. A red light flashed, and a mighty Gyarados appeared on the field, making a demonstrative roar. Gyarados? Gyarados appears as the first Pokémon. Yu looked at Hainan in surprise. A big bomb at the beginning? How else can I stop your Dragonite? Hainan said as a matter of course. It seems that you have made a tactical analysis specifically for me. I'm really honored. In this case, I can't let your tactics go to waste. Dragonite, come out. Yu threw the Pokéball, and Dragonite appeared on the field, and looked at Gyarados. His silly expression formed a sharp contrast with Gyarados' ferocious expression. Gyarados, use Dragon's Fury. Hainan gave the order. Gyarados roared, and green dragon energy surged, forming a huge tornado, sweeping towards Dragonite. Dragonite, fly up to the sky. Pray for rain. Dragonite's eyes suddenly became sharp, and it vibrated its wings, turning into a white light and quickly flew to the sky. Small pieces of dark clouds gathered, and drops of rain fell. Just waiting for your prayer for rain, Gyarados, 100,000 volts. Hainan shouted loudly. Gyarados roared, and electric light flashed around his body. A terrifying electric current came out of his body, following the pattering rain, and heading straight for Dragonite, enveloping Dragonite. It's so unexpected. Hainan's Gyarados can actually use 100,000 volts. The commentator was shocked and excited. Yu was stunned, looking at Hainan in disbelief. He could actually let Gyarados learn 100,000 volts. Without a skill machine. How did you do it? Let this Pokémon with 4 times weak electricity learn 100,000 volts. This is the gift I prepared for you. Hainan said to Yu. Yu's mouth curled up slightly. It's true that the world is so big that there are all kinds of wonders. However, it is only in this world, and with such opponents, that it is interesting. Otherwise, wouldn't this league meeting be meaningless? Dragonite, Dragon Dance, dance in the rain and lightning. Yu shouted. The unexpected 100,000 volts had an impact on him, but it also inexplicably aroused his passion. Dragonite's wings fluttered, dancing in the rain, strange power growing all over its body. Gyarados, increase the power of 100,000 volts. Hainan shouted. Gyarados roared, and the power of thunder and lightning continued to burst out, swallowing Dragonite. Dragonite, accept 100,000 volts now, fast. Yu shouted. Dragonite flapped its wings and rushed towards Gyarados at lightning speed. 10,000 electric currents fell on its body, making its whole body numb, but it also hit Gyarados at the fastest speed. The current in its body was transmitted to Gyarados at the moment of contact. Gyarados, who was hit by the impact force and the electric shock, was knocked to one side and roared in pain. It's a bold move, accepting 100,000 volts and then hitting Gyarados head on. Gyarados has both the attributes of flying and water, and the damage to it from the electric shock is beyond imagination. This injury in exchange is worth it, the commentator explained. Dragonite, Thunder Punch. Dragonite pursued the victory, with lightning flashing on his fists, and hit Gyarados fiercely. Gyarados, Ice Fang. Hainan shouted. Gyarados' sharp fangs suddenly exuded a biting cold air, and then burst out two light blue energy beams to compete with Gyarados head on. They fought back and forth, but neither of them was at a disadvantage. Dragonite, don't give up, go all out, Yu shouted. Compared with the previous 100,000 volts, Yu was much more indifferent to Ice Fang this time. Although water and ice are two different attributes, and one restrains fire and the other is restrained by fire, but the two attributes are too close. It is not surprising that ice Pokémon can use water tricks and water Pokémon can use ice tricks. Moreover, if you use Ice Fang in close combat, you must use your head to butt. In terms of flexibility, it is definitely not as good as Dragonite's fists. Yu is fearless. Raw Dragonite roared, lightning flashed on his fists, and fought violently with Gyarados, punching Gyarados head one by one, completely gaining the upper hand. Gyarados, Water Tail. Hainan quickly realized that this fight had no advantage against Gyarados, and quickly changed the order. Water flowed on Gyarados' long tail, and then it whipped towards Dragonite. Dragonite still used the same lightning punch, punching back and forth with its tail. Although his fists were powerful, Gyarados' tail was flexible, and it was difficult to tell who would win for a while. Dragonite, Speed. Yu suddenly changed the order, and Dragonite turned into a white light, and was about to distance itself from Gyarados and win with speed. Gyarados, Dragon's Fury, trap it, Hainan said. Gyarados roared, and a tornado blew out, driving the surrounding winds, and was about to trap Dragonite, but before it succeeded, Dragonite left first. Dragonite, 100,000 volts. Yu shouted. The two tentacles on Dragonite's head trembled, releasing a terrifying electric current, attacking Gyarados. Gyarados, Dragon Breath. Hainan shouted again. Gyarados opened its bloody mouth, and the green dragon breath erupted, violently colliding with the strong 100,000 volt current in the sky, cancelling each other out. Gyarados is afraid of electricity, so I already have a plan on how to defend against electric shock. Not all Gyarados can't deal with the electric shock trick. Hainan looked at Yu proudly. Indeed, it's a pity that your Dragon's Fury just now was not fast enough. If you change it to Storm, it will probably be able to trap Dragonite, Yu said. I'm still learning, but I just haven't learned it yet. Next time if I have a chance, I'll fight you again, and let you know how powerful Gyarados is, Hainan said. Then wait until next time. This time, I won first, Yu said. Impossible. Although Gyarados has a bit of a bad temper, once it is subdued, it is the most trustworthy partner. Your Dragonite can't beat my Gyarados, Hainan said. Sufficient self-confidence. Then let me see if you have the strength to match this confidence. Dragonite, Speed, 100,000 volts, Yu said. Dragonite immediately displayed its powerful speed, trying to get behind Gyarados to attack, releasing 100,000 volts, and bursting out a strong electric shock. Gyarados, keep breathing to block it, Hainan said. Although Gyarados' speed is far inferior to Dragonite, Gyarados can change its body shape and adjust its position at will to resist damage from all directions. This is the advantage of the snake-shaped Pokémon, which is not something that the evolved Dragonite can have. This battle plan was also thought out by Hainan against Yu's Dragonite. He thought of every trick of Yu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109, Defeat Gyarados. It's almost as planned. Hainan can make it to the finals of the Quartz Conference. With his strength, after getting Xiaoyu's detailed information, it will be much more difficult for Xiaoyu to deal with. In the VIP room of the Alliance, Juzi watched the broadcast with a smile. Aunt, you specifically leaked Xiaoyu's information to the opponent. This is to help the enemy. Are you really not afraid that Xiaoyu will lose? Kyojin said on the side. If he can lose, even if he does, he is not the future patriarch of our Kyojin family. You just protect him too much. Boys will have no future if they don't experience some ups and downs. Juzi said. Isn't it that my eldest brother and sister-in-law are too irresponsible? Xiaoyu is the only one in the next generation of our Kyojin family. If I don't spoil him, who will? Besides, how can an elder leak information to an opponent? Kyojin said. He's been so smooth. There has been no pressure throughout the competition. If it's so smooth, it's easy to get into trouble. He needs to know that in Pokémon competitions, there are no shortcuts in most cases. It's nothing more than mutual consumption. If you don't understand this, you won't go far in the Champions League. And it's not easy for me to take action. After all, even if I beat him, he won't think it's a big deal. So it's just right to give some information to the opponent. Kiku said, a good fighter does not have a glorious achievement. The same is true for Pokémon duels. The weak defeats the strong, and the opponent is defeated quickly at a slight cost. These are all, but they are only a minority. In most cases, it is a continuous battle, consumption, and then seeking a breakthrough. Aren't you afraid that Xiaoyu will really lose the game and can't even get into the Champions League? Kyojin worriedly, still unable to understand her aunt's approach. This, you can rest assured, Xiaoyu is more powerful than you think. This is just a simple test for him. And maybe we can know what kind of fighting style Xiaoyu is suitable for. Kiku said, our Kyojin family naturally follows the consistent fighting style of the ghost system. Kyojin said without thinking. It should have been like this, but Xiaoyu's personality is very different, and maybe he doesn't even know it. On the surface, he likes to be stable and hide, and to put it bluntly, he is afraid of death. But he has an adventurous gene in his bones, and it's even more terrifying when he risks his life. Especially now that he has followed Giratina. Giratina is a Pokémon famous for destruction, not a Pokémon that uses combination moves to cooperate. Kiku said. Kyojin frowned and didn't quite agree with Kiku's approach, but she couldn't object, so she could only continue to look at the screen. On the field, Yu, who was in a stalemate, began to get excited slowly. Kiku's worries were largely unnecessary. When we were on Honglian Island, we had fought all kinds of tough battles. Compared with those battles, the Alliance battle was easy. Although Hainan's Gyarados was powerful, it was not enough. On the contrary, Yu's emotions began to be mobilized. Dragonite, fight with all your strength. If you win, I'll take you to a buffet. All you can eat. Yu shouted. Eat all you can eat. The last eat kept echoing in Dragonite's mind. The last time he fought with Xiaozi, he lost to Pikachu because of carelessness, which led to his snacks being deducted. Apart from the normal 3 meals a day, he had nothing else to eat. Dragonite felt that he had lost several pounds. Now he can eat all you can. Dragonite, who was originally a little tired, suddenly became energetic, and every muscle in his body exploded, exuding a fierce aura. Thunder Fist. Dragonite rushed forward, with lightning flashing on his fists, and bursting at Gyarados. Gyarados, use the most powerful water tail. Hainan also roared, and the water on Gyarados' thick tail surged, and it was pulled towards Dragonite with great momentum. At this moment, Yu's order suddenly changed. Dragonite, hold on. Dragonite was a little puzzled, but his daily training made him strictly follow the instructions of his trainer. He released his Thunder Fist and took on Gyarados' Water Tail with all his strength. Gyarados jumped into the air and then swiftly pulled out a powerful tail of water, which directly smashed Dragonite from the air to the ground with one tail, and a large dust burst out, blocking everyone's sight. After the smoke and sand gradually dissipated, Dragonite and Gyarados appeared in everyone's sight. Gyarados' thick tail hit Dragonite's shoulder, leaving a scar, but Dragonite also tightly grasped Gyarados' tail. Gyarados used Dragon's Fury to break free. Hainan hurriedly said. Gyarados roared angrily, and a tornado burst out of its mouth, wrapping itself and Dragonite at the same time, and dragon damage hit at the same time. Although it is called Gyarados, it is not a dragon, so it has an advantage. Dragonite, 100,000 volts. Yu shouted. Dragonite also roared at the same time, holding Gyarados' tail tightly, and the two tentacles on its head burst out with terrifying electric currents, violently venting towards Gyarados in his arms. For a time, the electric light spread throughout the field, so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Today, it wants to eat buffet. Even Jesus can't stop it. Dragonite's face was ferocious, and terrifying power burst out from nowhere in his fists. The power of thunder and lightning surged, grabbing Gyarados' tail and slamming it heavily on the ground, causing the whole venue to tremble violently. With a loud bang, a deep pit was smashed into the ground, and Gyarados showed a pair of big circular eyes and directly lost his combat power. Dragonite took a heavy breath and sat on the ground. Such a high-load battle was also extremely tiring for him, but his face was filled with deep joy. I won, and the buffet was ready. Thank you for your hard work, Dragonite. Come back. Yu took out the Pokeball to take back Dragonite. Dragonite's potential was higher than he expected, but Hainan's Gyarados was not a vegetarian after all. Dragonite was too seriously injured and could not fight again. Thank you for your hard work, Gyarados. Hainan also took back Gyarados and expressed his gratitude to Gyarados. Then he looked at Yu and said, "You are really strong. Stronger than I thought, but Dragonite has basically lost its combat power now. We are still about the same. Next, how will you deal with my Pokémon?" Golduck. A red light flashed, and a blue duck Pokémon stood on the field. Golduck? Yu raised his eyebrows, and continued to move his hand back to the Pokeball on his waist. The first generation of animation is really a magical animation, creating many classic characters. In addition to Zyos's, there is also Zyarksha's. Zyarksha's most famous Pokémon is naturally the desperate King Psyduck, who comes out every time he calls Starfish. The petrification power plus telekinesis is almost unsolvable. One of the few beings in the first generation who can be deified, usually bronze, Headache King. Therefore, many people think that Psyduck's evolved form Golduck is super water. But in fact, it is pure water. But even so, Golduck is also a water type Pokémon that can use psychic powers, so let Absol appear. Golduck, petrify. Hainan gave the order immediately. Golduck's eyes suddenly emitted a bright blue light, and then a huge light blue aura emanated from it, spreading to the surroundings. Before Absol could react, its body became stiff and unable to move. Petrify is a general type trick. Non-psychic type, Absol is not immune. Golduck, water cannon. Hainan quickly gave the order. He had done his homework. Chapter 110. I predicted your prediction. Golduck opened its mouth wide and sprayed a thick water gun straight at Absol. Absol was unable to move at the moment and naturally could not resist. The terrifying water flow hit Absol, and it was hit into the sky in one breath. Absol was shot high into the sky, and its limbs were tumbling, looking a little overwhelmed. Absol, destroy the death ray. Yu shouted. Being shot high into the sky, the effect of petrification can also be considered as contact. Petrification and telekinesis are the same, and they need to be used continuously. They are suitable for two-person doubles, one control, one attack, and one Pokémon turns to attack. After the attack is completed, the effect of petrification will be lifted. Absol jumped from a high altitude, turned over and sprayed an orange-yellow beam of destruction, which fell straight towards Golduck. Golduck did not expect Absol to react so quickly. It was hit by the destruction death ray head on. There was a bang, and smoke and dust rolled again. Absol, flash of lightning. Yu ignored the smoke and dust, and gave the order brazenly. Absol fell heavily from the sky, and before he could care about anything else, he turned into a beam of white light and rushed forward. Gotha duck, petrification skill. Hainan shouted hurriedly. After being hit by a destructive deathlight, it was good that Gotha duck could stand up now, and it must not be hit again. At that moment, a blue light flashed in the smoke. Evil wave, interrupted. Yu shouted. The petrification skill has a good control effect, but it can be interrupted, as long as the distance is close. The purple black light flashed in Absol's mouth and hit the smoke fiercely. The appearance of blue light pointed it in the direction. The evil wave flew away, and a scream was heard in the smoke. When the smoke dissipated, Gotha duck lay on the ground with its forelegs up in the air, revealing a pair of big circular eyes. Golduck lost its ability to fight, and Yu won another victory. Compared with Dragonite's loss, Absol's loss is negligible, and it is obvious that it still has the strength to fight again. What Pokémon will Hainan send out to turn the defeat into victory? Absol is afraid of fighting type. Frog, please. Hainan solemnly took off the third Pokéball from his waist. A red light flashed, and a blue bipedal Pokémon more than 1 meter tall appeared on the field. Its limbs were strong and powerful, and it contained terrifying power. There was a pair of white gloves on its arms, like a boxer. The most eye-catching thing was the mosquito coil-like pattern on its almost transparent belly. Hainan's third Pokémon is Frog, a water type and fighting type. Fighting type tricks are effective against dark type Pokémon. Hainan sent out this Pokémon specifically. Did he prepare it specially? The commentator explained the situation of Frog. Yuyu's expression was also quite strange. It was normal to collect information about the opponent during a match, but he always felt that Hainan knew him a little too well. Fast swim frog, use belly drum. Hainan said. The fast swim frog's broad arms immediately slapped its big belly, making a sound like beating a drum, and the aura around it suddenly became much sharper. Absol, air slash. Yuyu said. The damage of the dark and general special moves to the fighting type is not significant, but the air slash, a flying type, is effective. Absol swung its sickle-like black horn, and countless air blades gathered, and hit the fast swim frog in unison. Fast swim frog, split the tiles, rush over. Hainan said. The fast swim frog swung his arms, white light flashed on his fists, and he moved brazenly, breaking the front air slash head on, and then rushed towards Absol. A flash of lightning, dodge, and then use air slash. Yuyu said. Absol's eyes were sharp, and he immediately dodged at an amazing speed. At the same time, he turned his head and hit the fast swimming frog with an air slash. The fast swimming frog was in pain, and showed a hurt expression. Yuyu's mouth curled up slightly, his belly bulged, and he lost half of his physical strength to increase his attack power to the highest level. In addition to the restraint of the fighting system on the evil system, if the fast swimming frog gets close to him and takes a move, Absol has no other possibility except falling down. If it is an ordinary Absol, there is really no way. After all, Absol is also good at close combat. But sorry, our Absol likes to attack from a distance. The fast swimming frog is not good at thick blood. With the double restraint, even if the distance is far, the effect of the air slash is greatly reduced. But if it comes twice, the fast swimming frog will be dead. I really don't know why Hainan would use such a trick when the situation is unclear. Fast swimming frog, sense Absol's movements, mind. Hainan said. A strange blue light appeared in the eyes of the frog, and the whole Pokémon had a strange aura, and its mind locked onto Absol. Yuyu's pupils shrank slightly, and then he suddenly realized Hainan's plan. The mind's eye sensed the other party's mind, and determined the reaction of the next round. The attack of the next round was almost certain to hit. If this is added, it is not blind. The attack of the frog can kill. Now, frog, split the tiles. Hainan shouted excitedly. Frog jumped up suddenly, and his right hand flashed with white light, and he chopped it down hard, as if splitting the mountain, and splitting the earth. At this time, Absol, who was using a flash of lightning, really rushed over, as if he was crashing into Frog's attack. At this moment, Yuyu also shouted fiercely, Absol, see through. Absol's eyes flashed green light, and the body that was about to rush over was forcibly deviated at an incredible angle. Frog hit it hard, but it hit the pit next to Absol, and it had no effect. See through the opponent's movements in advance, so as to achieve the effect of almost 100% avoiding the opponent's next attack. A trick that is almost completely opposite to the effect of the mind's eye. There is no difference between the two Pokémon using these two tricks, but it is just a competition of whose prediction is accurate. And the embarrassing thing is that Absol, as a Pokémon with an innate sensitivity to the natural environment, and can accurately predict various disasters, has a better prediction ability than Frog. Predicted your prediction. You shouted. Absol turned handsomely, and the black horn of the sickle burst out with powerful flying energy, hitting Frog, and Frog was immediately knocked out, and fell heavily to the ground, revealing a pair of big circle eyes, completely losing its combat ability. You only have 3 Pokémon. You stood on the stage, looking directly at Hainan, with a strong sense of oppression in his words, as if he was a superior. Hainan looked up at Yu, as if he saw a demon king, and his heart was panicked for no reason, and his hands holding the Pokémon were much slower. This was completely beyond his expectations. Originally, he thought that after resisting Dragonite, he would proceed according to his plan. But Absol, 1 against 2, completely disrupted his plan. He had no chance to target Absol with the remaining 3, and if he used them now, how could he target Raichu, Haunter and the others? Seeing Hainan's reaction, Yu's mouth curled up slightly. Pokémon competition is not only a battle between Pokémon, but also a battle between trainers. The mentality of the trainer will directly affect the state of Pokémon, and will make the command confusing. And the mentality of the trainer can be affected. He carefully prepared a plan to target himself, but in the end, he didn't defeat a single Pokémon. Such psychological pressure is not so easy to bear. Hainan's strength is stronger than he expected, so he also fully entered the battle mode. He also wants to target the trainer. Chapter 111 Quartz Champion, Pyro, Sunshine Flame. The Pyro neighed loudly, piercing the sky. Grass-type energy gathered in its mouth and shot out suddenly, hitting the white sea lion on the opposite side. The white sea lion screamed, was knocked away by the sun and flames, and fell heavily to the ground, limp and unable to fight. Hainan stared at the white sea lion lying on the ground, and then looked at the screen. 5 of his 6 Pokémon had dimmed. Only the last one was left. In other words, the Quartz Conference would end here. All along, the journey of 8 gym badges would end here. Is this the final outcome? The carefully prepared plan failed completely. In the actual battle, the 2 Pokémon failed inexplicably. Is the gap between my strength and his really that big? Is there any need to fight? Hainan hesitated, picked up his last Pokéball, and was stunned for a moment, thinking about the adventures he had taken along the way, walking through the mountains and ridges, shuttling through the stormy waves, and moving towards the goal of Pokémon Master. He and Pokémon stood together through thick and thin, sharing joys and sorrows. Can we only stop here? After a while, Hainan let out a deep roar from his throat. We must not stop here. Water Elf, go all out. As soon as the voice fell, a Pokémon that was all water blue, and seemed to be made of water appeared on the field. Looking at Hainan who suddenly roared, Yu smiled slightly. Did he finally react before the desperate situation? That's right, this is what you have experienced when traveling outside. However, it's too late to fight back at this point. Flame Horse, can you still hold on? Yu looked at the Flame Horse and said. The Flame Horse let out a long whistle, indicating that there was no problem. Okay, let's do it in one go. Sunshine Flame. Fire. Yu commanded. Today's weather is very sunny, and with the effect of a sunny day, it is bright and beautiful. The Flame Horse let out a long whistle, gathering the sunlight, and a dazzling beam of light burst out of its mouth. Water Elf. Water Cannon. Hainan shouted. The Water Elf opened its mouth wide, and the thick water column and the sunshine flame collided violently, evenly matched, and offset each other. Charge Flame Attack. Yu kept giving orders. The Flame Horse turned into a red light, and rushed towards the Water Elf with a heroic aura. The Water Elf was caught off guard, and was knocked away by the Flame Horse. The Water Elf fell heavily to the ground, with scratches all over her body. Water Elf. Water Flowering. Hainan said immediately. The water elf groaned, and 3 circles of water flow circles appeared on her body, surrounding her whole body. The condition of the water elf improved at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it was refreshed. Flame horse, come again. Sunlight flame. Yu said. Water flowing, an auxiliary skill, restores the physical strength of the Pokémon and treats various injuries. Although the amount restored is not large, it is long enough. In addition, the water elf itself is a strong blood cow. If it is not dealt with quickly, it will be consumed alive. The flame horse let out a long roar, absorbed countless sunlight, and a beam of light was ready to go. Water elf, water cannon. Hainan shouted. The water elf opened its mouth wide, and a thick column of water sprayed out, colliding violently with the sunlight flame. After a short stalemate, the water elf's water cannon turned the tables, overpowering the sunlight flame of the flame horse, and hitting the flame horse violently. The flame horse screamed, was blown away by the water cannon, fell to the ground, and was unable to get up. Come back, flame horse, you've worked hard. Yu took back the flame horse, and got used to it. He forgot that the flame horse's physical strength was a bit consumed. Even if the sunlight flame was powerful enough, it couldn't withstand the power of the water cannon. The real game starts now. Hainan looked at Yu, and there were almost sparks in his eyes. Maybe so, but you have already lost this game. Yu said. With only one Hainan left, it is impossible to defeat him. Unless this water elf has the strength of a king or above, but this is completely impossible. It's okay. There are still many games to come. Besides, your Dragonite is injured, Absol is tired, and Flammahorn has lost its fighting power. Now you are going to release the 4th Pokémon. I have to beat you until you release all 6. Hainan said. All 6? Can you use Accolade? Yu was very skeptical. If it was an ace, it would still be possible if he didn't use Haunter. But it was obvious that Hainan's ace was Gyarados, which had been beaten down by Dragonite. How do you know, if you don't try? Hainan's eyes were boiling with blood. If you are not a water-type trainer, I think you can try to worship the dragon-type King Genji of Hone as your teacher, and become the 2nd man of the sea. Yu said. Genji is known as the strongest king of Hone. Other people's Pokémon are strong, but his ace, Salamander, is ferocious and almost inhumane. His family is a pirate family, and it is said that they conquered the 4 oceans. Like to ride the wind and waves. There are 365 days in a year, and 360 days are spent at sea. Except for major events related to the entire Hone continent, under normal circumstances, it is impossible to find it. But he likes to take apprentices and drive boats for him. If they perform well, they will be accepted as disciples. Genji. Hainan's expression was slightly bright. He had never heard of it, not even Hone, but the 4 heavenly kings should be very powerful. Raichu, the victory of this game is left to you. Yu said. The Pokeball was thrown, and Raichu appeared on the field with lightning flashing all over his body, and the electric bags on his cheeks flashed with lightning. Is there finally a lightning Pokémon? Water Spirit, pray. Hainan shouted. The Water Spirit hummed, and colorful light flashed all over its body. Raichu, hurry, 100,000 volts. Yu shouted hurriedly. Pray, restore half of your own physical strength. Although it is not like sleeping to restore all physical strength, it takes a short time. Coupled with the effect of the watering and the endurance of the water spirit itself, Pokémon with similar strength will really be exhausted to death. Thunder Raichu's eyes widened, and a powerful electric current burst out from his body, raging throughout the field, and attacked the water elf forcefully. Water elf, Aurora Beam. Hainan shouted. A colorful light came out of the water elf's mouth, and rushed towards 100,000 volts, forming a solid barrier in front of it. But this barrier did not last long, before it was ruthlessly broken by lightning. The terrifying electric current directly covered the water elf's body. The water elf was completely knocked away, and fell heavily to the ground, dying, but it did not last long before a burst of light on its body changed, and it stood up firmly again. Yuyu's expression changed slightly. He guessed wrong. This water elf might really be able to do it. Water elf, flash of lightning. Hainan gave the order, and the water elf ran quickly, turning into a blue light, and rushing towards Raichu. Chapter 112 Quartz Champion, Part 2. Raichu, use another 100,000 volts. Yu shouted hurriedly. Raichu was about to use 100,000 volts, but just as the electric light on his cheeks appeared, the water spirit rushed over and hit Raichu hard, interrupting Raichu's 100,000 volts and knocking Raichu out. Good job, water spirit, water cannon, Hainan said excitedly. There was a sound of water flowing from the mouth of the water spirit, and a thick water column burst and shot towards Raichu. Raichu, use another 100,000 volts. Yu shouted. Raichu roared, and strong electric light burst out from his body, bursting along the water flow and rushing towards the water spirit, knocking the water spirit away. Pray. Hainan ordered again. 100,000 volts. Yu hurriedly chased. Raichu burst out a terrifying 100,000 volts, but before it hit, the water spirit used a flash of electric light to escape again, and then the light shone, and the water spirit stood up again. Raichu, increase the current effect. Yu shouted. Raichu understood, and a strong electric current burst out from his body, and he kept attacking. Water Elf, hold on, persistence is victory. Hainan also shouted. At this point, his tactics have been clear, that is, consumption. Consume the opponent's physical strength, then persist. Even if the attributes are mutually exclusive, as long as it cannot be solved at once, he can persist. Then seize the opportunity to counterattack. The water elf, who has recovered a lot of physical strength, stood up and looked at Raichu with sharp eyes. Seeing this scene, Yu couldn't help but frowned. Praying and adding water flow rings, and then adding water elves, a Pokémon with extremely strong endurance, using such tactics is theoretically feasible. Even school games have been simulated countless times. It's just that the target is usually changed to the moon elf. After all, the moon elf has more means, and can disgust people more. But in reality, Yu actually disdains such tactics. Theory is theory, reality is reality. Pokémon is not a group of data. It can't be added and subtracted so easily. Pokémon is also a living thing. It will hurt when it is it. If it is a turtle shell like the tortoise, which is hard enough, it doesn't hurt when hit by the shell. It's okay for a Pokémon like the water elf, which is constantly hit and constantly recovers blood. Isn't this the same as being whipped? I punch you, you get injured and hospitalized, and then come out and pretend nothing happened? Are you kidding? Killing people with a blunt knife is the most painful. Compared to being knocked down by a punch, being knocked down like this, with only one breath left, and then getting up and being beaten again, is even more miserable. At least Yu is absolutely unwilling. So he thinks his Pokémon will not be willing either, and they all go for the fast attack flow. Believe that attack is the best defense. Why get beaten if you can kill others? But when the game developed to this point, Yu found that he was naive. The more this water elf is beaten, the better his spirit is. It must be a hidden masochist. It can't be judged by common sense at all. If Raichu learns the electric grid, Yu plans to trap the water elf, and then constantly shock it, giving it continuous damage, to see how long it can shake. But it didn't. Eating it won't work, so we have to find a way to increase the power. But how can we increase it? We can't take drugs. Water elf, use the wish again, to restore your physical strength. Hainan shouted again. The water elf groaned and wanted to recover again. Yu's pupils shrank slightly. He couldn't waste time like this. He could only take a gamble. That immature idea. Yu, use the most powerful thunder at the water elf. Yu understood, roared, and the terrifying power of thunder and lightning burst out from his body and then violently struck from the sky. Water elf, dodge with a flash of lightning. Hainan was full of calmness. Thunder has a very high hit rate in rainy days. Under normal circumstances, unless it cannot be avoided at close range, the hit rate is much lower than 100,000 volts. The water elf can definitely dodge it. The water elf's cars ran and turned into a blow light and fled quickly. The thunder was about to fail. Yu suddenly said, Raichu, run under the thunder and take the power of thunder. What? Hainan was shocked and looked at Yu in disbelief. Attacking himself? Thunder. Hainan was shocked, but Raichu ran over without thinking at all, whether the thunder would hurt him. The terrifying thunder struck, and Raichu took it head on. The thunder rolled and turned into a layer of terrifying thunder power condensed on the surface hair of the skin. The whole mouse exuded dazzling golden light. Yu couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. He won the bet. One of the major operations in the Pokémon world. Eat your own attacks and enhance your abilities. In the Hone chapter, Pikachu and King Swallow swallowed thunder and put on golden armor. In an instant, they killed people and Buddhas and took down the gym badge. In the Sinnoh chapter, the forest turtle swallowed the energy ball and its strength increased greatly. It can park with the pioneer leaders Super Iron Tyrannosaurus and Xiaoguang's ivory pig. In this case, why can't Raichu? So, Yu made a bet, lost, changed his pet, and won the bet. Raichu, give the water elf the last blow. Yu shouted. Raichu gave a low roar, turned into a lightning and rushed over. Water elf, get out of the way. Hainan said hurriedly. Don't let it go. Raichu will turn on the power to the maximum. Yu said. The electric current on Raichu's body violently vented, engulfing the entire competition venue, and directly hit the water elf. There was a violent explosion, and the entire competition venue shook. The terrifying electric current traveled through the water elf's body. The water elf cried out in grief, and fell to the ground completely, motionless. Water elf, lose the ability to fight. The referee, who had been standing aside, ignoring all kinds of fierce tricks, calmly watched the damage of the water elf, and then gave a verdict. At the same time, on the display screen on the side, Hainan's 6 Pokémon all dimmed, and his entire influence disappeared, becoming the only image of Yu, with a big win written below. The game is over. Yu won the game completely, defeating Hainan, and winning the championship. He only used 4 Pokémon, and lost only 1 Pokémon, which is a miracle in the finals of the Quartz Conference. Let's cheer for him, and wish him good results in the Champions League 3 months later. The commentator passionately explained into the microphone. The audience stood up one after another, some cheered, and some applauded. Yu listened, although it was expected, but he also silently breathed a sigh of relief, showing a happy expression, jumped off the stage, and ran to Raichu. When Raichu saw Yu, he fell weakly at Yu's feet, and said weakly, Lei, thank you, you've worked hard. Yu picked up Raichu. Raichu hid in Yu's arms, with a happy smile on his face. It was worth it for you. Yu walked back to his position step by step. Well, earlier, Xiaoxu, Xiaozi and a group of people were happy for his victory. But a sad face appeared in the shadow. A single dog is actually a big pig's hoof. He doesn't want me anymore, after he has a new love. He won't let me participate in such a big event as the finals. Didn't I just accompany my little sister to play games for a few days? Didn't I accompany you? Sharona, who was next to Nero, looked up outside, her golden hair fluttering slightly, revealing a smile like a goddess of victory. See you in 3 months. By then, we will be opponents. Chapter 113 Alala, here I come. On the vast blue sea, a ship was heading towards Alala. On the deck, Yu didn't hold Raichu this time, but Eevee Egg. Recently, Eevee Egg often glows at night, which is a sign of hatching. Yu almost cried. It has always been a few days away from hatching, a few days away from hatching, and countless days away, and it has been half a year. Finally, I'm willing to see the world. Raichu, who was not in Yu's arms, was not worried. He punched a mole with his little fist, and played the game of whack-a-mole happily. There was a little white light at the tip of his little fist, but he didn't even know it. As for the rest of the Pokémon, they were all the same, playing their own games. Mewtwo stood at the top of the cruise ship, overlooking the world. Only Dragonite was not on the boat, but jumped into the sea happily to swim. He was as happy as a 500-pound child. Yu didn't care. He won the championship of the Quartz Conference. It was time for awards. Just have fun. As for whether he would drown, there was no need to worry about it. Dragonite was once considered the incarnation of the sea. Although it has no water attribute, Lugia, a superpower and flying, can be the god of the sea. So what is this? Lily was sorting out the gifts. Returning to my hometown after a long absence, I naturally have to bring some Kanto specialties to my friends. Not one less. Xiaoxu was looking at the guide of Alala. After all, Alala is a special place. It is so special that the Alliance does not even have a gym, so there is no Alliance conference, forkings, or champions. This is unique in the world. In terms of terrain, there are mainly 4 islands: Melamal Island, Akala Island, Ulala Island, and Pony Island. Each island has a unique Pokémon guardian. In addition, there is Lily's Ether Foundation, which paid for itself to build an artificial island comparable to the 4 islands. It is said that there are Pokémon in different forms from those in the Kanto region, but I have never seen them. Xiaoxu looked at the tourist atlas, full of expectations. The waves rolled, and the ship finally arrived at the dock. Just as Yu and his companions were about to go down, they heard a loud welcome from the dock. Alala Yu looked at the dock and saw a middle-aged man dressed meticulously in a butler's uniform standing there, with 4 teenagers beside him. Or children. 2 men and 2 women, dressed differently. The 2 men were very different. One was shirtless, with dark skin, several shades darker than Xiaogang, and there seemed to be a flame of fighting spirit in his eyes. The other was just the opposite, white and fat, round, and always around. The 2 girls were harmonious with each other. One had green hair, her face was full of youth and liveliness, and her whole body was full of sunshine. The other girl had dark blue hair, and was followed by a water Pokémon. Kachi, Mamane, Mao, and Shulian. Yu matched them one by one in his mind with the memory of his previous life. Everyone, they are here. Lily saw her familiar friends, and ran over happily, hugging Mao and Shulian. Alala Yu wisely did not join the girls in reminiscing about the past, but greeted the butler in the same way Alala greeted James. Ever since Lila's father, Moon, mysteriously disappeared while researching the ultimate hole, Lusamine has been numbing herself with work, and basically Lily is taken care of by the butler James. Master Yu, hello. The chairman has already explained your affairs, and your room and Miss Xiaoxu's room have been cleaned up, James said respectfully. As Lusamine's butler, he is professional in all kinds of conduct. Then I'll trouble you from now on, Yu said. It's all my duty. James still looked respectful, which is his accomplishment as a butler. Yu, Xiaoxu, these are the friends I told you about in Alala, Mao, Shulan, Kachi, and Mamane. Lily excitedly introduced Yu and several others, and then introduced them to her classmates in Alala, Mao, Shulan, Kachi, Mamane. They are my new friends, Yu and Xiaoxu. Yu is a very powerful trainer, who just won the Kanto Quartz Tournament champion. Xiaoxu is a very powerful breeder, and she is the best at taking care of Pokémon. Quartz Tournament champion. Kachi looked at Yu with flames in his eyes. Yu looked at him with a smile, especially at the bracelet on Kachi's wrist. Z bracelet. Among Lily's group of friends, he is the only one who has passed the big test and can use Z moves. Feel the Z moves, the quickest way. We are all Lily's friends, so we are all friends. Let's get together in our restaurant. The lively Mao took the initiative. Then I'm sorry to bother you, Yu said. It's okay, we are all friends. I'll introduce our restaurant's specialties when the time comes, and I'll need your opinions. Mao smiled brightly. Everyone talked and laughed, and walked towards Lily's house. The relationship quickly became close. How should I put it? Alala is really peaceful. It's like a paradise, without any competition. Lily's friends are all close to the hot-blooded protagonist personality of Xiaoxi, who is 1 in a million. It is undoubtedly a very comfortable thing to be friends with such people. Walking on the street, chatting, while feeling the unique customs of the Alala region. The economy here is not developed, but the environment is excellent, and most people have bright smiles on their faces. And unlike the people in Kanto who collect Pokémon in Pokéballs, the Pokémon here are all walking outside openly and playing with their owners at will. Mutuo, who also followed Yu down and used his superpower to control his body to float in the air, looked at the situation around him with a very complicated expression on his face. After looking for a long time, he suddenly looked at Yu and said, "Is this the actor you found?" It didn't believe that there was such a place in this world where humans and Pokémon got along so well. It felt that Yu was trying to trick it. It had seen similar things in movies and books. Artificially set up a place, controlled everything, and let everyone act. If you have money and power, you can do it. And you can do it. We are also friends who live and die together. Can you trust us a little? This is reality. Humans are the most complex creatures in the world. When they are born, they have a strong selfish mentality, which means they have darkness. Gloating over other people's misfortunes is even an instinct, but humans also have a natural compassion. Darkness is inevitable. Where there is light, there is shadow, but if you have never seen light, you will not feel darkness. Yu turned his head and looked at Mutuo. Light and darkness. Good and evil, the basic dialectics of opposites. Mutuo looked at Yu with a dim gaze. These words were quite similar to some of the books it had read, but it didn't quite understand what they meant. It was too embarrassed to ask Yu what they meant. Yu was indifferent under Mutuo's gaze. In addition to wanting to obtain Z moves, his main purpose in coming to Alola was to purify Mutuo. Alola was the most harmonious place in Yu's impression. It was better than Pallet Town, so after Mutuo accepted the situation in Pallet Town, it was time to come to Alola to continue purifying his mind and enter the second course of treatment. He looked straight at Yu without dodging and said, if there is a choice, most normal people would choose to be good people. The night gave us black eyes, but we use them to find light. Humans may be such creatures, with darkness, but never giving up the pursuit of light. In fact, he wanted to say something to Mutuo. Only children are entangled in absolute light and darkness. Most of the time, people are grey. He is a good person at some times, but this does not prevent him from being a bastard at other times. However, these things are too profound, and Mutuo should not understand them. Looking at Mutuo's expression, Yu must have nodded. It really didn't understand the book. He said, I will be in Alola for 3 months. You don't have to follow me. Just wander around and take a look at this Alola in the other side of this world. The world is never only dark. Do you agree with me leaving? Mutuo said. Anyway, you will come back. After all, we are friends now. Who will you chat with without me? Besides, you are used to eating Xiaoxu's food. Are you used to eating something else? Yu said. Mutuo had a blank expression on his face, and his superpowers shone all over his body. He disappeared on the spot. He only left a sentence. Leave one for me at 7 o'clock every night. Chapter 114 Skeleton Team. It's Sunday guy. Yu's mouth curled up slightly. Mutuo, who went out for a walk, can solve many problems. Yu, your Pokémon can talk. Mamane looked at Yu in surprise. That's not my Pokémon, it's my friend. Yu said. But Yu's Haunter can talk too. Lily said. Haunter can talk, so special. Mamane and the other 4 looked at Yu in shock. Yes, not only Haunter, but also Meowth can talk. Lily said with a hint of boasting. After going out for a while, she had a great harvest, so she naturally wanted to come back and share it with her friends to show off. We have lived in Alola for so long, and we haven't seen a talking Pokémon. Lily went out for a trip and knew so many Pokémon. I really want to go out and see it. Mao said with a hint of envy. If there is a chance, let's travel together. Lily said. A group of people had expectant expressions, and they were obviously curious about the outside world. After walking for a while, they finally arrived at Mao's house. Ina restaurant. Mao's family business. Everyone sat together. Mao quickly served juice to Yu and Xiaozu. This is the specialty of our Ina restaurant. Pineapple juice. Welcome to try it, and it would be best if you can give me some advice. Yu took it, took a sip, and tasted it. It was sweet and sour, and tasted good. His first reaction was to send some to Giratina. Giratina should also like it. How is it? Is it delicious? Mao said. It's delicious. This is the best pineapple juice I have ever tasted. It has a different taste. Xiaozu said. This is the trump card of our Ina restaurant. It is my father's masterpiece. Mao said proudly, while looking at his father busy in the kitchen. Yu raised his head slightly and looked at Mao's father in the kitchen. If he remembered correctly, Mao's father's pineapple juice was not created by himself, but learned from a Pokémon called Zahu in the forest. Yu was deeply impressed by that Zahu. It is a rare guy who can compete with Mama Bear, and it seems to have opened its own store in Alola. If you have time, you can go there to eat directly. It should be more delicious. Thinking of this, everyone gathered together and started chatting, eating, and playing games. This meal was half to welcome Lily and half to welcome the new students. Yu and Xiaoxu also naturally integrated into their group and ate happily. Until outside, Dragonite let out an angry roar. Yu realized that something was wrong and rushed out immediately. Seeing 3 people in strange costumes appearing at the door of the restaurant, they were dressed very non-mainstream, with skulls painted on their shirts, and covered their faces with black scarves in broad daylight. They didn't look like a group of good people. Who are you? What are you doing to Dragonite? Xiaoxu looked at the 3 people with a bad face. As Yu's personal breeder, her understanding of Yu's Pokémon is deeper than Yu in some aspects. Although Dragonite is powerful, it has a gentle temperament, and is not a Pokémon that will attack casually. They must have provoked Dragonite. They are the Skull Team, a group of hooligans who stir up trouble all day long, do nothing, and cause destruction everywhere. Kachi said. He has taught these people a lesson several times. You are the hooligans. We are the Great Skull Team. Destruction. Destruction. The 3 members of the Skull Team shouted slogans loudly, with glory on their faces, as if they were shouting such sacred words. So what do you idiots want to do here? Yu looked at the 3 members of the Skull Team and said, because there is light, it feels dark. But where there is light, there must be darkness. Even in a place like Alala, that seems to be a paradise, there is darkness. The Skull Team, the Villain organization and the Alala region. In theory, it can exist on a par with organizations such as the Kanto Rocket Team and the Sinnoh Galaxy Team. However, if it is really on a par, Sasaki will jump out of the grave and Chiri will get out of the prison to express dissatisfaction. Because it is really too low class. No discipline, no regulations, no funds. This is the situation of the Skull Team. Even to join the Skull Team, you have to buy your own uniform, not to mention the salary, team building parties, etc. There are no benefits to speak of. Compared with the high risk, high return, illegal salary of the Rocket Team, it is a world of difference. Only in a place like Alala can it be barely called an underground villain organization. Move to Kanto, it is a gangster organization like the cycling group. Therefore, Yu did not have a good attitude towards this group of people. They are just a group of losers who have problems with their brains, have no skills, can't pass the island tour, and like to make trouble. You are an idiot, I tell you. Your Dragonite, we want it. It belongs to our Skull Team. One of the 3 members of the Skull Team seemed to be the leader and spoke arrogantly, and then the 3 of them threw out the Pokeball together. A red light flashed, and 3 coconut tree Pokémon that looked like giraffes appeared in the field, shaking their heads and looking at Dragonite threateningly. Is this the coconut egg tree of Alala? Xiaoxu looked at these Pokémon in amazement. Although she had seen them in travel guides, she was still shocked to see them in person. Is this the coconut egg tree of Alala? Did it mutate into this shape because it absorbed sunlight? What's the principle? Come and fight. If you lose, your Dragonite will belong to us. The members of the Skull Team said proudly. Then, the 3 coconut egg trees swung their necks at the same time and released the Dragon Hammer trick. Despicable, bullying the minority with the majority. Exploding tortoise, come out and help Yu. Kachi couldn't stand it anymore, so he took out the Pokeball and released a strange looking turtle Pokémon with most of its body red and countless spikes on its shell. No, it's a small scene. I'll do it myself. Dragonite, tornado. Yu shouted. Dragonite's eyes turned fierce, and the dragon power burst out, and then turned into a terrifying hurricane, blowing away the 3 coconut trees and 3 members of the Skull Team in one breath, throwing them to the side, knocking them unconscious. So fast? Kachi was stunned. He and these people are old opponents, and have fought several times. Since he learned Z moves, he has always beaten them. But if you don't use Z moves, it's not easy to fight, and it's 1 against 3, but Yu easily solved it without using Z moves. Is this the strength of the Quartz Conference champion? It's okay, the attributes are restrained. Yu said. Isn't the coconut tree a grass plus is super? Is there a restraint? Xiaoxu asked puzzled. The coconut tree in Alala is a grass plus a dragon, don't you know? Yu asked curiously, haven't you read the travel guide? The guide only says that, because of the unique geographical environment, some Pokémon in Alala grow differently from Pokémon in other regions, but it doesn't say that their attributes are different. I thought they were the same as the Pokémon on some small islands in the Orange Islands, just bigger in size or pink in color, but how come their attributes have changed? And they are dragon attributes. Zyatsu said, puzzled. The travel guide says that the coconut egg trees in Alola are different because they absorb the unique vision of Lala, and they grow much taller. And they think that this is what the coconut egg trees originally look like. But what does absorbing sunlight have to do with changing attributes? Or dragon attributes? Dragon attribute Pokémon are all powerful proofs, right? I don't know about this question either. This is it. Why can people breathe? I don't know either, but people can breathe. You said, and it's not just the Alola coconut egg trees that are dragon attributes. Catchy, a plain looking turtle with a tubular nose, is also a dragon attribute. Here, silently mourn for Charizard. It doesn't have what both turtles and trees can have. What's even more bizarre is that these two Pokémon don't know as many dragon attribute moves as Charizard. Chapter 115. Eevee finally hatched. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse, and the bright moonlight was sprinkled on the earth. Yu held the Eevee egg and basked in the moonlight. He had a feeling that the Eevee was about to hatch. It would be in these few days, so he took good care of the Eevee egg. Haven't you slept yet? A gentle voice sounded, and Yu turned around and saw Zyrozu coming over in a silk nightgown, holding a red Vulpix in her arms, cutely arching in the vast sky. Aren't you still asleep? Yu smiled. Because I know that you are a battle maniac. Coming to Alola will definitely not be a real holiday. At most, you will give Dragonite and the others a rest for 1 or 2 days, and then you will have to train. So take advantage of this time to take care of Dragonite and the others. Zyrozu said. The battle maniac is Zyro-ZHI, but I'm not. I'm the representative of enjoying life. Training is one aspect, and enjoying is another. In fact, if I really have to choose, Zyromao's life is better. The victory or defeat of the Pokémon competition is only temporary, and girlfriends are long-lasting. Yu said. 6 is also temporary, and we can't get married together. Zyrozu said. Not necessarily. Yu tilted his head slightly at a 45-degree angle to look at the moon. In this world, different places have different laws, and polygamy is really possible. So you are very envious. Zyatsu said. Of course. Yu said. Is there any need to say this? So you want to try it too? Zyatsu said. No, having multiple girlfriends is easy to fail. I'm not good at time management. I don't have Zyromao's skills of working together, so just think about it. And Pokémon, isn't he fragrant? Isn't Raichu warm? And isn't the little Eevee that is about to hatch cute? Yu touched the Eevee egg lovingly. Zyatsu's expression was complicated. How to say it? Because she was older than Yu and the others, she was relatively mature and more sensitive to love. She just happened to know Zyrozu, Zyromao, and Yu. So when she was bored, she would judge the love of the 3 people. Zyromao and Zyrozu were obvious. Zyromao, flowers bloomed everywhere. Zyrozu, iron trees are hard to bloom. Only Yu jumped back and forth. She was really a little curious whether Yu would bloom everywhere or never bloom. Also, starting tomorrow, prepare a little cooler food for Stottle. Yu said. Cooler. Although Stottle is a water type Pokémon, its eating preference is not particularly different from other Pokémon. Does it need to be specially cool? Zyrozu asked curiously. No, I plan to train Stottle with ice type skills and let it learn a freezing ray so that it can be more powerful against grass type and dragon type Pokémon. Originally, I planned to put Stottle in the refrigerator to feel the cold and naturally learn the power of ice, but it was too cruel to think about it. I was afraid that Stottle would kill me in the middle of the night, so I'd better eat some ice first, get used to the power of ice, and then fire the freezing ray. Yu said. Stottle, a water type Pokémon, it is not difficult to learn ice type tricks. After learning, Stottle's attack range will be greatly improved. Although in the Champions League, Stottle is basically a runner-up, the main force is Haunter and Dragonite. But you always have to exercise. In the Champions League, even if you lose, at least you will gain more knowledge and broaden your horizons. Put Stottle in the refrigerator. Zyatsu's pretty face showed a strange expression. If Stottle hears your idea, Stottle will want to beat you. Work hard to exercise and become stronger. In addition, Zyaksu, you don't have to worry about me. You can arrange your own lifestyle. There are really many different places in Alala. The Vulpix, Sandslash, and Coconut Tree here all have special forms and attributes. If you count the forms before they evolve, there are a total of 18 kinds. Yu said. No, I'm your exclusive breeder. I can take a vacation occasionally, but I can't take a long vacation. And I can know more by following you. Zyaksu refused. Although she wanted to, she had professional ethics. Well, tomorrow, let's go to the Alala pancake shop and buy some pancakes. I heard that the pancakes here are the most delicious. Giratina should like them. Let's take a look at Alala's Raichu. Yu said. Alala Raichu must like it very much. Zyaksu said. It should, but it may also be envy. After all, Alala Raichu is more suitable for fighting, and life is more convenient. Yu said. The sunlight in Alala is full of magic. The coconut tree shines on it, and the psychic attribute is changed to the dragon attribute. Raichu shines on it, and it has an additional psychic attribute. The characteristics are also changed from static electricity and lightning rod to surftail. In the electrical field, the speed is doubled, and with the free movement of superpowers, the combat power is much stronger than that of ordinary Raichu. After all, superpowers themselves are bugs, and the characteristics are good. The only disadvantage is that the sunlight is too strong, and Alala Raichu's skin color is much darker, and the appearance has declined a lot. But for pragmatism, it is not a big problem. If it weren't for the fact that there is already a Raichu, it is difficult to accommodate 2 rats on 1 leaf, and Yu doesn't have so much energy to train extra Pokémon now. He would have captured more. Zyaksu nodded, with a curious expression on her face. For her, Alala is really a place full of treasures. Crack at this time, the Pokémon egg in Yu's arms suddenly made several crisp sounds. Yu looked over with great joy and saw that the originally flawless Pokémon egg with brown stripes on a white background suddenly had many cracks, one after another, crisscrossing, and soon it was like a spider web, and then it broke into pieces, and a Pokémon that looked a bit like a fox hatched. It had brown fur, soft and fluffy, and looked a bit like a fox, but it had long ears and a small black nose like a rabbit. After all, it was cuter than ordinary foxes and rabbits. Booyee, the newly hatched Eevee, instinctively regarded the creature it saw at first sight as its parents, and felt a deep sense of intimacy from Yu, and called out affectionately. Yu immediately showed an expression like an old father, and his whole face completely melted. Booyee Eevee seemed to relax a little, and happily arched in Yu's arms, as if it was very comfortable. Newly born Pokémon should be washed with warm water first. Zyaksu reminded on the side. Yes. Yu finally reacted, nodded his head, and hurriedly got ready. Lilia, who was about to fall asleep, was awakened by the noise outside, and came out sleepily. As a result, when she saw Eevee hatched, she immediately perked up, her eyes shining. Although she didn't dare to touch it, she sat on the side, and watched with relish, staring intently. With Zyaksu, a professional breeder, everything was naturally designed specifically for Eevee. Eevee was washed comfortably, unlike other Pokémon that were taken care of by ordinary trainers after hatching and had to suffer a little cold. Yu gently wiped the water off Eevee's body with a dry towel. Eevee cooperated obediently from beginning to end. After Yu finished, Eevee tilted its little head and rubbed Yu's knees. Yu was even more comforted. At this time, he finally understood why Eevee was always in the top 3 on the Pokémon pet list in the world and won the first place for 3 consecutive years. Because it's so cute. The rest of the Pokémon looked at this new little cutie and basically showed a welcoming expression. After all, this was a Pokémon that they saw, being born with their own eyes. Only Raichu felt something was wrong and scratched his head with his tail. He felt that he might lose favor. Eevee, these are all our friends and family. We must work together in the future. Yu touched the little Eevee's head and introduced the rest of the Pokémon to the little Eevee. Eevee looked at the Pokémon who tried their best to smile kindly, and they all showed happy expressions. He felt that this world was great. After thinking about it, he walked towards Raichu. Because Raichu was the shortest and closest to the height of the little Eevee fell in love with Raichu at first sight. Raichu didn't say anything and was still aloof and slightly defensive. Buoy Eevee walked to Raichu and called out in a cute way. It stuck out its pink little tongue and licked Raichu. Raichu's body suddenly felt numb and it looked at Eevee with wide eyes. Little guy, what are you doing? Buoy. After seeing Raichu's reaction, Eevee was overjoyed and kept licking Raichu's body. Raichu's whole body felt numb and finally he lay comfortably on the ground, exposing his belly for Eevee to lick at will. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116. Giving Eevee the Unchanging Stone. They are having a good time, Lily said when she saw this scene. Of course, Raichu is the most gentle, and Pikachu is an angel. For example, Zyoz's Pikachu is the core of his team, the master of the harem, and the first wife, Yu said. If Pikachu is a girl, Zyuksha and Serena are nothing. Lily Raichu, who was being licked by Eevee happily, heard Yu's words, and his black eyes shone. Would ye like me more like this? Should I learn from Zyoz's Pikachu? Raichu pondered for a while, then felt the warmth on his body, and forgot to think all of a sudden. That's it, it's good. Pokémon and Pokémon are also good friends. Yi is mine, and this Eevee is mine too. All of them are mine. Lily looked at the playful Raichu and Eevee, and smiled happily. When Pokémon are happy, she is happy too. Lily, are you ready to capture Pokémon? Yu said, taking everything in his eyes. Not yet. Lily's smile froze slightly, and she lowered her head a little embarrassedly. Although she tried very hard to get in touch with Pokémon, and had some results, she dared to touch Yu's Absol and Zyuksha's Vulpix. But for now, she was limited to these two. She still didn't dare to touch the rest, not to mention raising them. Then let's start from now. Start with Pokémon eggs, and then overcome them bit by bit. How about Alola's Vulpix? It's snow white all over, and it's better looking than Zyuksha's Vulpix, Yu said. Alola Vulpix and its evolved Ninetales are the kings of Alola Pokémon's appearance. In the Alola Pokémon world, where the appearance of the Pokémon is collectively collapsed, they have carved out a bloody path with their snow white bodies. Vulpix Zyuksha's Vulpix has been lying on the side elegantly and dignifiedly, like an elegant lady, and did not join the discussion group. When she heard Yu's words, she suddenly raised her head and sprayed a fireball from her mouth, which directly covered Yu's face. Yu was burnt to a crisp on the outside and tender on the inside. The ghost power surged in his body. He shook his head to get rid of a layer of ash, and then said, "Hey." Vulpix suddenly attacked. It's very rude. Vulpix proudly turned his head and lay aside again. You deserve it. If you say it's ugly in front of Vulpix, anyone would scold you, Zyuksha said. I'm just suggesting it. Yu thought about it and decided not to dwell on this issue. He turned to look at Lilia and said, Alola Vulpix, I sincerely recommend it to you. Lilia hesitated for a while, then nodded firmly and said, yes. I can't be too far away from you. I also want to be a Pokémon trainer. I'll go find my mother and look for a Vulpix egg. That's the best. 2 Vulpix. Just thinking about it is pleasing to the eye. Yu sighed sincerely and then looked at the little Eevee who was licking Raichu and waved. Eevee, come here. I'll give you a gift. Eevee, although he didn't quite understand what the gift meant, he understood it when Yu waved and ran over excitedly. Yu smiled and took out a pendant from his arms and hung it around Eevee's neck. Although Eevee didn't know what the gift was, he was still jumping happily. Is this the immortal stone? Yu, why did you let the little Eevee wear this? Lilia looked at Yu strangely. Just after it was born, you gave it the immortal stone. No, this is a normal operation of Eevee's birth, Zyuksha said. Huh? Why? Lily was puzzled. If there is no stone, the Pokémon will not evolve. Why should it be brought at birth? Because Eevee is special, its body genes are very strange, with very unbalanced and unstable genes, which is why it has many evolutionary forms. But it is also, because of such genes, that not all Eevee can evolve. In the early stage, it needs to be suppressed by the stone, Yu said. In the game, as long as there is enough experience, there is no situation where it cannot evolve. But in reality, it is full of infinite possibilities, giving Pokémon many powerful abilities beyond the game, but at the same time there are also many side effects like EV. Occasionally, because the genes are too unstable and collide with each other, it is impossible to evolve stably towards a single attribute such as water or fire. Even with evolution stones such as Thunderstone, Firestone, and Waterstone, it cannot evolve. After all, evolution stones like Thunderstone, Firestone, and Waterstone only provide a kind of power to control the gene of EV to change to fire, rather than change it fundamentally. If EV's own power is too chaotic and can't change, it can't evolve. This is why, for a long time, Kanto has believed that EV has only 3 evolutionary forms, because the genes of other attributes are too unstable, and using the immutable stone to suppress it temporarily can prevent the genes from being too active. After a while, it can be taken away. Moreover, Yu has not yet decided which attribute of Pokémon he wants EV to evolve into, so temporarily use the immutable stone to suppress it. In order to avoid accidentally touching the Thunderstone, the evolution of evolution stones such as the Firestone and the Waterstone, and suddenly evolving in the middle of the night. According to Yu's idea, for EV's future evolution, the Sun Elf and the Fairy Elf are the best. Psychic and Fairy attributes are both scarce attributes. Next, the Leaf Elf and the Ice Elf are also okay, and there are no 2 attributes in the team. But the rest of the Fire Elf, Water Elf, Thunder Elf, and Moon Elf are not needed. The team has the corresponding attributes, so it is not necessary. I see. Zyaksu nodded in sudden realization. By the way, our Pokémon school hasn't had a long vacation yet. I'll go back to class the day after tomorrow. Do you want to come to class too? It's very interesting, and it's different from the courses in Kanto. Yu pondered for a moment. To be honest, he was really interested. Alala Pokémon School was founded by Professor Oak's cousin, Oak Chengai, so it couldn't be bad. Moreover, Lily's teacher, Professor Kiku, was a doctoral scholar on the surface, but secretly the strongest trainer in Alala. His class was also very interesting. Not to mention, someone won the championship that he hadn't won in 20 years of traveling, but he won it when he came back to school. All signs indicate that the teaching quality of this Pokémon school is obviously very good. In addition, from the performance of Zyaksu and his group in the animation, it is obvious that they skip classes every day, and the school does not manage them very strictly. If it were normal times, Yu would really go there. But there are less than 3 months until the Sinnoh Champions League, and his schedule is tight. Going to class will disrupt his plans, and frequent leave may even cause conflicts. Although he is not afraid, it is unnecessary. After thinking about it, Yu still shook his head and refused. Forget it, I'll go when I have time in the future. Is that so? Then there is no way. I thought we could go together. Lily said with a little disappointment. After returning home, it's all the same. Yu smiled and said, during the holidays, you can also take me to visit the attractions in Alala. Of course, take Sul and Mayo with you. Lily said this, and became excited again. A golden nest or a silver nest is not as good as a doghouse. What's more, Alala is not a doghouse, so it is still the most comfortable to return to Alala. My favorite things are here, and my best friends are also here. Chapter 117 Meiji Ayana. Evie, where are you? Leil's anxious voice sounded in Lily's villa. Yu and Raichu were anxiously looking for Evie. It has been a week since Evie hatched. During this week, Yu did not challenge any trainers, but simply worked on the Pokémon plan. And Evie has grown strong in this week. Pokémon were originally called Warcraft, implying magical beasts, and later they were called elves, and now they are called Pokémon, because they are magical enough. Evie, only 1 week after birth, can have lightning and high-speed stars, and the full-strength lightning has an impact force of 800 kilograms, the level of a professional boxing champion. Fortunately, Yu has also practiced, otherwise he would not be able to withstand the collision of Evie. After having enough strength, Evie began to play around. Occasionally, he would disappear. Like now, he disappeared while playing. Yu and Raichu tried hard to find it, and Lily also mobilized all the servants in the house to search. But after searching for a long time, Eevee was not found. It's not like he's already gone, Xiaoxu said worriedly. It shouldn't be. Eevee is still young, he shouldn't want to go out, and there are surveillance cameras at the gate. He shouldn't be able to go out, Lily said. Then Lily, where else in your house haven't you looked? Yu asked. Are there any other places you've looked? I've looked everywhere in the house, inside and out. Is there anything I haven't looked for? Lily frowned and thought, full of distress, and then reacted and said, I know, there's also Father's room. Father? Xiaoxu looked at Lily strangely. She had known Lily for so long, but she had never heard Lily mention her father. Yes, my father, he died when I was very young. Lily showed some sadness in her eyes. Sorry. Xiaoxu apologized immediately. It's okay. After all, my father has been gone for many years, and if Eevee didn't leave my house, he should be in Father's room. Lily hid the sadness in her eyes and shook her head. She missed her father, a daughter's instinctive deep attachment to her father. But if we really talk about how deep the feelings are, it's not like that. Because Lilia's father disappeared when she was still a baby, and the only impression she had of her father was the impression in the photo, and she had no other memories. From childhood to adulthood, Lusamine also didn't allow her to ask questions about her father with her brother Gladion. Miss, are you really going? James hesitated. Lilia's father, Dr. Moon, was the founder of the Ether Foundation and his master, but since Moon's death, Lusamine was too sad and deceived herself not to mention it, thinking that this would dilute the sadness, so Moon's room has not been opened for a long time. Go, mother said, I'll take care of it. Let's find Ibrahimovic first. Lilia said. Yes, miss. James bowed and saluted. As a butler, he couldn't refuse such a request, and took Yu and a group of people to Moon's room. When he opened the door, he heard a commotion coming from inside. Sure enough, Yu saw a little brown guy arching inside. Seeing Yu and the others coming in, he was immediately delighted and threw himself into Yu's arms. Yu, however, reached out his hand unhappily, patted Eevee's butt and said, You little guy, who told you to run around? Do you know that, if you run away, others will be very worried? After being spanked by Yu, Eevee was embarrassed to arch his back in Yu's arms. It was an accident that it came in, but it was locked up here for half a day and almost cried. You are always making trouble. If you continue like this, I will have to train you. Yu said a few words to Eevee, but that was all. It was really unreasonable to blame a child who was just 1 week old. He turned around and looked at Lilia and said, Sorry, it's my fault. I will definitely take better care of Eevee in the future. It's okay, nothing serious happened anyway. Lilia said, and then she was about to leave here, but she looked at a cabinet for some reason, feeling that there was something very important to her in it, as if it was calling her. Following her instinct, Lilia walked over and opened the cabinet, and a grey steel puppet appeared in front of everyone. This steel puppet is dressed as a girl, and the main structure of its body is also a sphere. Its head is a medium-sized sphere with a 7-toothed deer-shaped hat and 2 large ears that look like 2 halves of a huge disc. Its upper body is made of spherical shoulders, its upper arms are very thin, its forearms are claw-shaped, and its hands are slightly pointed. Even its lower body is a larger sphere, but it looks like a ball gown. There is a pair of golden wavy lines on each side of the sphere, and its legs are slightly pointed. What is this? Xiaoxu asked in confusion. Magiana. Yu said its name beside her. It should be the first Pokémon created by humans. It was created by Eliphas, a genius scientist of the Kingdom of Azoth and an authority on mysterious science more than 500 years ago. In the game setting, it is a powerful Pokémon comparable to Latios and Mew. It's just that this Magiana should have color, but this one is grey and rusty, and should have no power and cannot move. It seems to be no different from an ordinary machine. Magiana, what is it? Why is it here? Lily also looked at Yu in surprise. I don't know why man-made Pokémon 500 years ago appeared here, but according to legend, Magiana was specially created to protect the little princess of the kingdom. Yu looked at Lily meaningfully and said, The little princess of the kingdom? Lily's heart moved. Yes, this is the most precious thing of the master. I found it in an antique shop when I was traveling, and the master did a lot of research to make it move. James said on the side. So, this is what my father gave me. Lily stared blankly at Magiana, which had no color. She missed her father. This was a normal longing for a father she had never seen as a child. But all along, the feelings were vague. Until now, she felt the love of the father who had no impression of her for the first time. Yu looked at a notebook on the side, picked it up and opened it. When she saw a passage in it, she looked at Lily and read it out. Today, I visited the antique shop in the small village. From the moment I entered the shop, I never looked away, because in the corner of the shop, Magiana was sleeping there quietly. Although it was rusty, there was no doubt that it was Magiana. It was a masterpiece created by a genius scientist in a certain kingdom 500 years ago, or even longer. At that moment, Lily's cute smile emerged in my mind. I think this is fate. Magiana is a gift from God to Lily, a gift to my little princess. Today, reading has returned to normal. I seem to be feeling lonely and a little embarrassed. 3 updates to celebrate. Then 2 updates on Mondays and Fridays, and 3 updates on weekends. After all, monks still have to find jobs, and can't stay up late. Well, thank you all for subscribing, and by the way, shamelessly beg for all kinds of things, recommendations, subscriptions, rewards, etc. I want all that you can give. Chapter 118 Tapu Fini. Father. Lily murmured as she looked at the colorless Magiana, tears welling up in her eyes. Butler James lowered his head, as if he was also remembering his departed master. Although Zyaksu had no feelings for Moon, she lowered her head in this environment, and the whole room was filled with a sad atmosphere. The wee little Eevee poked its head out in confusion in Yu's arms. At this age, it didn't know what life and death meant. It didn't understand these sentimental atmospheres. Yu also felt a little out of place in the atmosphere. It's not that he has no empathy, but he knows that Moon is not dead. In the game, it is clearly stated that he lost his memory, opened a resort, and lived a leisurely life. In the animation, it is not clearly stated where it is, but it is certain that he is not dead. So, this sadness cannot be pretended. After thinking for a while, Yu said, Lilia, what has happened cannot be undone, but you still have a chance to see your father now. How can I see my father? Lilia was stunned, looking at Yu in disbelief, not sure whether what Yu said was true or false. James and Zyaksu also looked at Yu in surprise. How can they see each other when the person is dead? The 4 major islands of Alala have guardian Pokémon to protect the safety of the islands and bless the peace, but the 4 guardian gods are not only good at fighting, they also have special abilities. Among them, the guardian god of Pony Island, Tapu Fini, has the unique ability to let people see deceased people or Pokémon. Yu said. So, as long as I go to Pony Island and find Tapu Fini, I can see my father. Lilia said excitedly. She has never missed her father as much as today. Yes, Yu said, although in fact, you can't see him, because your father is not dead. But only by going through this process, can I tell you, that your father is not dead. Otherwise you won't believe it, even if I tell you. I can see my father again. James, hurry up and get ready, we are leaving. Lily said impatiently. Yes. James nodded and prepared to make arrangements, but before he left, suddenly a powerful superpower wave surged, a dazzling blue superpower light flashed. Cheomeng appeared out of thin air, looking at Yu and said, You said, there is a Pokémon here that can let me see the dead or Pokémon? Yes, Tapu Fini has such an ability. As long as it approves, we can. We need to understand it well. Yu replied. This is not a lie, but does Mewtwo also want to see people or Pokémon? If it dares not agree, beat it until it agrees. Mewtwo's eyes flashed with blue light, and superpower surged. She wanted to see the person she wanted to see. Wait, you can't do it, solve it peacefully. Yu warned seriously, don't you read philosophy books? Convince people with reason. Why do you call for action every day? And although, if you fight alone, you are stronger than them. But, you are one, and there are 4 of them, not to mention, that there are 2 above them, and there are thousands of Alola people below. In other places, most people would not take the so-called legendary Pokémon seriously. On the contrary, as long as you don't capture them in a harmful way, you will be considered a warrior. For example, Minakun in the Johto region spent his entire life chasing Suicune and trying to capture Suicune, and no one thought it was a big deal. And if you succeed, others will think you are a powerful trainer. For example, fighting against the pioneer leader of the frontier, the Pyramid Pharaoh god conquered the 3 pillars, and the legendary Pokémon man in Sinnoh conquered at least 2 legendary Pokémon, which is nothing. Because in the final analysis, everyone just thinks that these Pokémon are powerful and are legendary Pokémon. They are called legendary Pokémon because they are powerful, but not many people really regard them as gods. Only a few people believe in them. For example, in the Johto region, only the descendants of the Scorched Tower still believe in Ho-Oh. For most other people, Ho-Oh is just a relatively powerful Pokémon. If someone captures it, most people will not have any objections. But it is different in Alola. These Pokémon in Alola are really regarded as guardian gods by the people of Alola and placed on the shrine for worship. The king of the island manages the entire island and then leads all the people on the island to believe in the guardian of the island. If you capture or harm them, you will be cut off from Alola and will be beaten up by the people of Alola. Not to mention, if you really fight, you may not win. The 4 gods of the island all have their own exclusive Z moves. Together with the king of the island, 4 against 1. Can you really withstand Mewtwo? This is not counting the 2 bosses, Solgaleo and Lunala. If the 2 of them are together, Giratina can't fight 2 alone. If you don't help, what else can you do except fight? Mewtwo said as a matter of course. Be reasonable and beg. Yu said, if it's a human, you can see if you can get some benefits and ask about their hobbies. If it's a Pokémon, use something like sincerity. Mewtwo stared straight at Yu, as if thinking whether Yu was right or wrong. After a while, he put away his superpowers. I believe you for now. If we can't reach an agreement, we'll fight again. Seeing Mewtwo calm down, Yu secretly breathed a sigh of relief and said, the personnel have been confirmed, and there is no need to prepare. Let Mewtwo take us there. Mewtwo, locate Bonnie Island and teleport. Yu gave the mobile phone location of Bonnie Island to Mewtwo. Mewtwo took a look, and then the terrifying superpowers on his body surged, instantly covering himself, Yu, Xiaoxu, Lily, and others. The powerful superpowers surged again, and all disappeared together. Only the butler James was left, standing there blankly, looking around at a loss. Why am I still here? Where is the lady? Deg. Hurry up and find the chairman. At the same time, deep in the Alola Island, in an unknown place, a Pokémon that is more than 4 meters tall, like a big bat, and a little like a vampire noble in Western legends suddenly opened its eyes, and the surroundings seemed to light up all of a sudden. What a powerful superpower. In addition to Solgaleo and me, when did Alola have such an existence? Is Necrozma awake now? This special Pokémon had a strange light in its eyes, and then it flapped its wings, and disappeared from the spot. If Necrozma wakes up now, it will be dead soon. Mewtwo, who had just teleported Yu and the others to Pony Island, looked at the direction where the Pokémon disappeared, and his eyes suddenly became sharp. What kind of power is this? Why does it feel not weaker than me, and even stronger, almost catching up with that black Giratina? How much did those damn humans lie to me? They said I was the most powerful Pokémon, so why did Pokémon that were no worse than me appear one after another? Chapter 119 King of the Island. What's wrong? Mewtwo? Yu looked at Mewtwo curiously. I feel a psychic power that is no worse than mine. Is there such a strong Pokémon here? Mewtwo said, yes. Yu nodded affirmatively. Solgaleo, the god of the sun, and Lunala, the god of the moon. The former has psychic power plus steel, and the latter has psychic power plus ghost. They are all psychic masters. Does it have anything to do with the Tapu Fini we are looking for? Mewtwo asked. The relationship between Tapu Fini and them is probably similar to that between me and Giratina. Yu said. You and Giratina? Mewtwo's expression was subtle, and he couldn't just fight casually. Let's find Tapu Fini first. How do we find it? Xiaoxu asked. Although Tapu Fini is the guardian of the island, it is also a legendary Pokémon. It is not easy to find it, because it can only be seen from the head, but not the tail. Find the king of the island first. Yu said. He remembered that Tapu Fini seemed to be in the ruins of the other shore. but he didn't know where the ruins of the other shore were, so he just looked for the king of the island. The king of the island will always know, and the king of the island is easy to find. After asking a few people, Yu found the residence of Sofu, the king of the island of Bonnie Island. A simple wooden house. In front of the house is a radish farmland. A little girl wearing a purple hat is planting radishes in the farmland. There is also a tall horse and a huge puppet giant next to it. As if she noticed the arrival of Yu and others, the little girl raised her head and looked at Yu and others curiously and said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" "I'm Yu. They are my friends Lilia, Xiaoxu, Cheomeng. We are here to see Mr. Sofu, the king of the island," Yu said politely. The identity of the king of the island is extremely special. He is a person recognized by the guardian god of the island. It is similar to the combination of the high priest of faith and the great elder of the clan, with sufficient prestige. Although they do not represent the law, theoretically they do not have any official positions, and no one pays them wages. Many island kings have to work part-time, but their words are often more effective than the law. In ancient times, if a few people decided, they could put someone in a pig cage. Because there is no alliance here, it can be said that here, the will of the few of them is the alliance, which is much more important than the will of the government of misjuncture. "Come to see my grandfather." "Wait a minute, I'll go find my grandfather." The little girl put down the radish in her hand and ran inside. Yu looked at the little girl's leaving figure, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Sofu had only one granddaughter, Hapu, who passed the test of Tapufin after Sofu died, and became the island queen. She is also the youngest island queen recorded in the history of Lala. I didn't expect that she is like this now. After a while, a thin old man came out of the house with a cane, his face ruddy, looked at Yu and others gently and said, "What do you want me for?" Most of the kings of the islands are kind and willing to help others, so they are prestigious and preside over major events. "We want to find Tapufin. I hope you can tell us where Tapufin is," Yu said. Hearing that they were looking for Tapufin, Sofu frowned and asked, "Where are you all from? What are you looking for Tapufin?" "Grandpa Sofu, hello, I'm Lilia from the Ether Foundation. I heard that Tapufin can let humans see their dead relatives, so I want to come here to see Tapufin, to see my father whom I have never met." Lilia took the initiative to come out and said, "Ether Foundation? Are you the daughter of Morn and Lusamine?" After hearing this, Sofu's frown gradually loosened and looked at Lilia. They were in the same area, one was the king of the island, and the other was the boss of the largest company, so they naturally knew each other. "Yes." Lilia nodded and looked at Sofu with hope. "Is that so? My daughter wants to see her father, I can't refuse, but whether she can see him or not depends on Tapufin's intention. We can't force Tapufin. If you agree to this, I can take you there," Sofu said. He was not afraid that Yu and the others would hurt Tapufin. He didn't think Yu and the others had the ability to do so. "Just in case, I feel that this is not right." "Thank you, Mr. Sofu," Lily said excitedly. "Okay, you guys come with me. Tapufin usually lives in the ruins of the other shore southeast of Bonnie Island. If you go now, you may be able to find it." Sofu got up and walked in one direction. Yu and the others hurriedly followed Sofu and walked half of the island and came to a beautiful valley. "Tapufin is in there. If you can get its approval, you can find it. If not, you can't," Sofu said. "Yes, thank you, Mr. Sofu." Lily was grateful and then walked into the valley by herself. Seeing this, Yu and the others followed, strolling in the valley, thinking, the Buddhists said that life and death are this shore and nirvana is the other shore. This place is called the ruins of the other shore, which is really appropriate. But will Tapufin be willing to see them? Speaking of which, among the 4 island guardians of Alala, Tapufin is the strangest. There are 4 island guardians. Tapu Mu, the guardian of Melamal Island, liked Xiaozi very much as soon as he saw him. After meeting him twice, he gave him a Z bracelet and Z crystal, and also trained with him for free, upgraded his Z bracelet for free, and gave him a kill in the last game, which made Xiaozi win and become the real Alala champion. He likes Pikachu. Tapu Butterfly, the guardian of Akira Island, liked Zyozzy at first sight and healed Zyozzy's injuries when they first met. He liked Zyozzy's grunt the most and even helped Grunt evolve into the unprecedented and unique dusk form of Grunt. Tapu Moo, the guardian of Ulala Island, also liked Zyozzy very much. As soon as he saw him, he helped Zyozzy train for free, allowed Zyozzy's owlbit to sleep on his head, and Toxopus sprayed water on his face. When Zyozzy was taking the big test, he blatantly cheated Zyozzy, almost making the Island King Merton cry. Only Tapu Finfin didn't like any of the cute little creatures in Zyozzy's team. I don't know if it's because Tapu Moo likes two of them and took its share, but in short, Tapu Fin is a very strange and unsociable Pokémon. And such Pokémon is more difficult to say. I don't know if I can find it. If not, let's discuss and pull Zyozzy over. This kid should be challenging the Orange League now to win the single player games winner cup. If we talk, I think there will be no problem. Thinking of this, a lot of thick fog suddenly appeared around. Yu and the others gradually couldn't see the road ahead clearly, but Yu was not surprised but happy. Tapu Fin is a Pokémon with dual attributes of water and fairy. It can use a variety of water type moves, but it is particularly afraid of pain and hates being injured in battle, so it likes to create thick fog to hide itself, and then use fairy type moves to confuse the enemy. So now that you see thick fog, it means that Tapu Fin is not far away. The fog is getting thicker and thicker, and Yu, Lily, and Zyaksu are gradually separated, and only Mewtwo is left by their side. After walking for an unknown period of time, the scene in front of him suddenly became clear. I saw a beautiful little girl floating in the air, accompanied by 3 Pokémons, Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur. When Mewtwo saw them, his body suddenly stiffened. Chapter 120 Mewtwo's Thoughts. Yu saw the little girl and the 3 little Pokémon, and then he suddenly realized. He understood who Mewtwo was seeing. Mewtwo's superpowers were too strong, so when it was not fully grown, it used telepathy to communicate with the other unfinished copies. These copies also shaped Mewtwo's 3 views for the first time. However, Mewtwo was the only one who succeeded, so all these copies died. Yu had never thought that he could see them in the midst of Tapu Fin. Sure enough, no matter how they came, as long as they exist, they are life. Mewtwo is, and so are they. Mewtwo. The little girl called Mewtwo's name happily. Her name is Zyoi number 2. Because she knew that she was a copy, she called it number 2. Mewtwo's earliest friend. Zyoi. Mewtwo called the little girl in a gentle tone that he had never said to Yu before, with tenderness in his eyes. You survived healthily and grew up. It's great. The little girl flew around Mewtwo happily, laughing happily. The rest of Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur also flew around Mewtwo happily. They were all happy from the bottom of their hearts, happy that Mewtwo survived. They were not sad at all for their own death. Yes, I survived. Mewtwo nodded, but I was the only one who survived, not you. There is no world where only we can fly together. It's great, Mewtwo, you know? The feeling of being alive is the best. This world is good. Zyoi looked at Mewtwo and said, no, this world is not good. It is ruled by dirty humans. Mewtwo retorted, hey, I'm also a human. Yu said angrily to show his presence. Mewtwo glanced at Yu, saying, don't say anything. You are not dirty, but you are not very clean either. How can that be? Mewtwo, I'm also a human. Although I'm a dead person. Zyoi smiled. But there are few humans like you. Mewtwo said, but it's good to be alive. This world is beautiful, and you've made new friends. Zyoi smiled innocently, and looked at Yu. Hello, I'm Zyoi. You are Mewtwo's new friend, right? Yes. Yu nodded. Then please take good care of Mewtwo in the future. Although Mewtwo has great power, it knows very little. It doesn't know anything. It needs you to take care of it. Zyoi said. Okay. Yu winked at Mewtwo. Mewtwo looked at Yu and didn't want to talk to him, but didn't refute him. I don't know if Yu's words about him being his friend just now were because of the presence of his first friend Zyoi. Such a world is really good. Mewtwo, what happened to you in the future? Zyoi looked at Mewtwo excitedly and said, in the future? Muto smiled and told Zio what happened to him, omitting the part about Sasaki and trying to say something good. However, after saying this, it accidentally discovered that most of the talk was actually about Yu. Zio, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charmander were all listening with a smile. Yu did not interrupt from beginning to end. He held EV and watched their discussion with a smile. Muto should gradually like this world. Feelings are very subtle. Love grows naturally over time. Even cats and dogs have deep feelings after being raised for a long time. What's more, Muto can talk, and its IQ is far higher than that of cats and dogs. Yu gradually really regarded Muto as a friend and partner. Whether the super evolution research succeeds or fails is not important. But whether Muto is happy or not is very important. Muto and Zio chatted for an unknown period of time until Zio and the others' bodies began to dissipate. Are you guys leaving again? Muto said with a blank expression. Yes, we all have to leave. Muto, I'm so happy to see you again. Remember, make more friends and see more people in the future. Zio looked at Muto with a smile, and then her body gradually turned into a light spot, disappearing in front of Muto bit by bit. Muto looked at the empty ground and remained silent. After a long time, Yu walked up to it and said, let's go. We always have to look to the future. See a newer world, a better future, and more beautiful things. Don't let yourself sink into darkness forever, just because you have experienced darkness. That would only punish yourself. Can you let me learn the ability to communicate with the dead? Muto suddenly asked. No. Yu shook his head decisively. Although it was absolutely impossible without him, he was not omnipotent. Giratina asked him to find a way to make Giratina super evolve, which was already asking too much. Now Muto should not mention unreasonable demands. Being able to make the dead appear has nothing to do with strength. It depends on the rude and unreasonable instinctive talent. This is not a question of whether Tapu Fini can teach. It's that if he can't teach, Muto can't learn it. You can't either. Muto lowered his head in disappointment. No, and you can't. Birth, aging, illness and death are the laws of nature. They are existences that neither humans nor Pokémon can resist. Seeing the dead is already the limit. Any more would be too much. Besides, seeing them might hurt them. So, let's look forward, Yu said. Muto sighed and said nothing. EV and Yuyu's arms also stretched out. Its little head jumped out of Yuyu's arms, jumped onto Muto, and looked at Muto with its big watery eyes. Muto looked at the life that he had watched being born and thought about what Zio said just now. In the end, he didn't throw it out, but just held it in his arms. Yuyu's mouth corners slightly raised. Muto's transformation plan has been completed by 60%. Congratulations. One person and two Pokémon walked forward, and soon the fog naturally dissipated. Yu also reunited with Xiaoxu, Lily, and Sofu and Hapu outside. Xiaoxu had a strange expression on her face, as if she had seen someone. Yu was not expecting this, but she did not ask too much. Lily's expression was expected. She was disappointed. Mr. Sofu, can Tapu Fini really let us see our deceased relatives or Pokémon? Lily looked at Sofu and said, of course, didn't you all go in? Didn't you see it? Sofu asked in confusion. The appearance of the thick fog meant that Tapu Fini was willing to help you. No. Lily shook her head in disappointment. Can't you see your father in this way? If that's the case, then Morn should not be dead. Sofu said, my father is not dead. Lily was stunned when she heard it, and then she looked at Sofu with an excited and somewhat uneasy expression and said, Mr. Sofu, is my father really not dead? Yes. Tapu Fini can let you see your deceased relatives. If you don't see them, then they are not dead. There is only this possibility, no other possibility. Sofu said affirmatively. No one knows Tapu Fini's ability better than him. If you don't see them, then they must not be dead. No, my father is not dead. After receiving Sofu's affirmation, Lily showed an unprecedented bright smile and looked at Yu happily. I have to go back quickly and tell my mother about this. Tell her that my father is not dead. Okay, let Muto take you. Yu looked at Muto. Muto's eyes were subtle, with a faint blue light flashing. I don't know if it was an illusion, but it always felt that Yu was floating recently. Use it as a means of transportation. Should I beat Yu up? But thinking that, if Yu was not there, Zio AI and the others would not appear, he stopped the intention to attack, walked to Lily, and disappeared with Lily and Xiaoxu, leaving Yu alone. Huh. I haven't said it yet, but you understand what I mean. When did you understand me so well? Yu said strangely. He didn't plan to leave. Sofu was here, so he naturally had to go on a pilgrimage to the islands. So he just asked Mutuo to take Lily away, but he didn't say it. How did Mutuo know? Could it be that they have a deep tacit understanding? A teleportation, a raging Cheomeng, naturally had no idea of Yu's emotions. If he knew, he might really go back and talk to Yu about life. Random teleportation, across mountains and rivers, appeared in a dark basement of the Ether Foundation. Lilia looked at the surrounding environment, and suddenly her body shook, and some scenes that she didn't want to recall began to emerge in her mind. Happy Lantern Festival, an extra chapter for this festival that cannot be taken, and is forgotten by people. Chapter 121, Tour of the Islands. You're not leaving? Sofu looked at Yu in surprise. The king of the island is here to tour the islands. He also wants to see the legendary Z moves. Yu said with a smile. You want to gain the power of Z moves? Sofu said. Of course, there should be no trainer who comes to Alola who doesn't want to. Yu said. Trainers who don't want to become stronger are called breeder apprentices. To participate in the tour of the islands, you must first pass the big test. I can accept any big test from Mr. Sofu. Yu said. Z moves are based on Z bracelets and Z crystals. Trainers obtain these two things and then communicate with Pokémon, and according to specific rituals, they can burst out powerful moves. Among them, Z crystals are distributed in special veins all over the island of Alola. If you are lucky, it is possible to get it by various methods. However, only the king of the island has Z bracelets, and other people will not make them, even if they get the raw stones for making Z bracelets. Moreover, the people in the Alola region have strict management in this regard. Trainers who pass the test generally only have the right to use it, but not the ownership. For example, Catch's Z bracelet was left by his deceased grandfather, but if he wants to own it, he must pass the island tour. The island tour not only tests the strength of the trainer, but the king of the island usually tests the trainer personally and gives a big test. No need, you can see the past people in the mist of Tapu Fini, which means that the guardian god Tapu Fini has recognized you. In this case, what qualifications do I have to not recognize you? Let's go straight to the big showdown. Sofu said. Okay, thank you Mr. Sofu. Yu said happily. It would be best if we could do it directly. After all, the big test before the island tour is often not related to fighting, which is more distressing. Very good, let us conduct the sacred island tour under the witness of Tapu Fini, the guardian god of Bonnie Island. Sofu looked sacred and made sacrificial gestures. Yu followed suit. As long as it does not harm oneself, the beliefs of others are the most important thing to respect, even if you do not believe in them. Seeing this, Sofu nodded with a little satisfaction, then looked at the giant hanging in the air and said, Clay giant, please. Clay the clay giant called out, and its feet retracted from its body, and it walked over step by step. Its 3-meter tall body looked down at Yu with a strong sense of oppression. Clay giant, ground, and ghost attributes. Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. The Pokémon of the king of the island cannot be ignored. If it has a Z move, it is best to use the ghost attribute Haunter. But this time Mutuo teleported too fast, and Haunter was not brought with him. He is still playing games in Lilia's manner. In this case, there are not many choices. Dragonite, come on. Yu threw Dragonite's Pokeball. Our Dragonite came out and called lazily. The food at Lilia's house was too good. He ate too much accidentally. The room in Yuyu's luxury ball was also well designed, so he slept very comfortably. Dragonite, you are a dragon. Yu was stunned and looked at Dragonite. Was the sound just now a cat's or a dog's bark? Dragonite looked down at Yu and felt that Yu was right. Then he shook his head and turned to stare at the clay giant, trying to show that I'm fierce. Is this your Pokémon? It seems to have a good relationship with you. Sofu said. Of course, after all, there are not many people who can feed it. Yu said. Well, Come on, the island tour begins. Sufu, the king of the island, against the challenger Yu. One-on-one. The challenger attacks first. Sufu said. Dragonite super speed. Yu said without hesitation. Dragonite suddenly turned into a white light and quickly pounced on the clay giant. Although Clay Doll Giant is a ghost type, it has a special move of the general type and does not cause any damage, but it can get close the fastest. Moreover, Clay Doll Giant was discovered in the Unova region, but not in Kanto. The Unova region is usually the same as the Kanto region, so the family does not know much about it. Yu really wants to know whether a ghost Pokémon with a hard appearance, like Clay Doll Giant, will be attacked. Because the reason why the ghost type is immune to the fighting type and the general type is that the ghost type Pokémon can make their bodies between half virtual and half real. When attacked, they can transform into a virtual state at any time and be immune to the attacks of the general type and the fighting type. If they are in a real state, they will be attacked. The effect of seeing through is to make the ghost type Pokémon fixed in a real state for a period of time. But can Clay Doll Giant, whose body is mostly made of mud, really be immune to the general type and the fighting type? Clay Doll Giant, arm hammer. Sufu shouted and ordered. The mysterious patterns on the body of Clay Doll Giant shone. Strange power surged, white light burst out from the fist, and hit Dragonite violently, leaving Yu no chance to explore. Dragonite, catch it, Yu said hurriedly. As Dragonite flew forward, he punched out with both fists, colliding head-on with the iron fist of the clay giant. With a loud bang, the clay giant retreated several meters before it stabilized its body. Now, throw Dragonite out, Sufu said. The clay giant stabilized its footsteps, burst out with strength, and threw Dragonite into the sky, hitting Dragonite with a powerful force. Dragonite, stabilize your body, Dragon Dance, Yu said. Dragonite, who was thrown into the air, immediately opened his eyes wide, swung his tail, controlled his body, and then danced in the air, a mysterious force rising from his body. Don't even think about it, Clay Giant, interrupt him, use heavy collision. Sufu shouted. The clay giant immediately put his legs into his waist, swung his hands, and burst out strong airflow from his limbs at the same time, slamming into Dragonite at the speed of sound. Dragonite, who was dancing, couldn't avoid it, and was hit head-on by the clay giant. Tail flick, Yu said. After being knocked away by the clay giant, Dragonite heard Yu's order and swung its tail to hit the clay giant to the side. The clay giant stabilized its body and continued to float in the air without suffering any damage. Dragonite flew to the side, stabilized its body, and did not suffer any obvious damage, but its eyes became sharper. Yu frowned secretly. The heavy impact was nothing. The power of its special move was determined by the weight difference between the two Pokémon. The heavier than the opponent, the stronger the power. Because his Dragonite was well fed, it weighed 250 kilograms, which was 80 kilograms heavier than the normal Dragonite. The weight of the clay giant was estimated to be between 300 kilograms and 400 kilograms, with a small difference, so the power of this shot was about the same as the lightning flash. It was worth using it to increase the power of Dragon Dance. But if Dragonite learned the Dragon Tail, it could have dealt a lot of damage with the tail just now, which was a big profit. There was still a problem with the arrangement of Dragonite's special move. Just because you don't have a tail, you can't ignore Dragonite's tail. Every part of a Pokémon is a powerful attacking part. Chapter 122 Flying Too High. Your quick response is commendable, and your cooperation with Dragonite is also very good. Sufu looked at Yu and praised. As the king of the island, his work is somewhat similar to that of the gym trainer. He has to give certain guidance to the trainers who come to challenge him and train the younger generation. Thank you Mr. Sufu for the compliment. Mr. Sofu's clay giant is also very strong and can fly at the speed of sound, Yu said. There is no other way. The old man likes to use ground type Pokémon. As a result, a group of challengers bully the ground type Pokémon because they can't fly and can't attack the flying type Pokémon. They always like to use flying type. The old man cultivated some Pokémon with rock type skills, but the effect was not very good. At this time, I happened to meet the clay giant, which is both ground type and ghost type. It can fly freely. It usually monitors the entire island for me and waters it. It is a very reliable partner. Sufu said. The clay giant laughed silly after hearing this. Ground plus ghost system. It is in line with Mr. Safuwu's training style, Yu said, frowning slightly at the clay doll giant. There are few ghost type ones that can't fly, but most of them are just floating, and their speed is not very fast. There are not many like the clay doll giant that can fly at the speed of sound. So, this is interesting. How about a battle in the sky? Safuwu looked at Yu with burning eyes. His eyes were full of youthful fire that didn't match his aging appearance. Okay. Yu agreed readily. Dragonite, freeze punch. Dragonite's fists were cold and gleaming, and its wings vibrated, turning into a white light and quickly approaching the clay doll giant, punching it. Clay doll giant, face the enemy head on. Arm hammer. Safuwu shouted. The clay doll giant's shrunken fist immediately stretched out, shining with white light, and fought head on with Dragonite. In long range attacks, Dragonite's speed can severely suppress the clay doll giant, but in close range battles, Dragonite's speed cannot be increased to the peak all at once. Although it has an advantage, the clay doll giant can also deal with it. Dragonite, fly south, speed up, and use speed to decide the outcome, Yu said. After hearing this, Dragonite immediately shook off the clay giant, speeded up, and with a low roar, it burst out with full speed, leaving a trail of after images in the air. Clay giant, don't let go, catch up. Sofu did not relax at all, letting the clay giant bite tight to prevent Dragonite's speed from bursting out completely. The clay giant's legs sprayed air, and immediately caught up, but just as it caught up, a gust of air suddenly came, and Dragonite took advantage of the situation, turned around suddenly, and swung its tail over, hitting the clay giant's face hard. The clay giant was caught off guard, and was forced to slow down. The whole Pokémon was confused, and then Dragonite turned flexibly in the air and hit the clay giant's face with a fierce freezing punch. The clay giant was knocked down in one breath, like a meteorite falling to the ground, smashing a deep pit. The sky, or the flying sky. Yu looked at Sofu and said, did you plan to let Dragonite do a tail swing? Sofu looked at Yu and said, this boy is not simple. He was here for the first time and he could tell the surrounding situation so quickly, and use the environment to fight. It is, but it is more of Dragonite's own ability. I just cooperate with it to use this ability. Fighting in the sky is different from fighting on land. It needs to consider many different factors such as sunlight, wind direction, airflow, and give full play to the combat ability of the flying system. These are the basic qualities of Dragonite. Although the clay giant can also fly, it does not have such qualities, Yu said. When he was a child, he and Kojiro learned the aerial ring competition together. They were both top-notch in judging sunlight and wind direction. And Dragonite originally had such ability. The sky is the sky fairy of the flying system. Okay, then are you ready to withstand the power of Z moves? Sofu looked at Yu with burning eyes. It has been a long time since I saw such an interesting challenger. Please go all out, Sofu. But Sofu is in charge of ground Z. Even if it is a Z move, the ground type tricks still cannot hit the sky, Yu said. Then let's see. Sofu laughed, and suddenly a strong aura emanated from his thin body. A bracelet on his right hand emitted a dark purple light. A cold and powerful aura gathered from all directions to his body and then injected into the clay giant on the ground, creating a strange resonance between the two. Yu's heart sank for no reason, as if he was entangled by some ghost, and his body stiffened slightly, as if something was oppressing him. The great power of Bonnie Island. Obey the call of my island king Sofu shouted suddenly. Endless dark night with a bang. Purple light burst out and illuminated the sky. The clay giant, who was originally seriously injured, stood up suddenly. In an instant, the sky on all sides suddenly dimmed, as if it had fallen into the legendary spirit world. Endless purple ghosts floated from all directions and pounced on Dragonite, trying to swallow Dragonite. Dragonite, fly up quickly and keep flying to the top. Yu shouted immediately. He cursed the rogue in his heart. A ground type island king actually used a ghost type Z move. It was unreasonable. But at this time, there was nothing he could do. He could only hope that Dragonite would fly up quickly. In reality, there is no such thing as a sure hit. If you fly up, you can always avoid it. As long as you avoid this attack, victory is in your hands. Dragonite's wings vibrated rapidly, and it flew at an unprecedented speed, straight into the sky. What is this thing? It is even colder than the breath of the Haunter boss. Only Giratina is more powerful. No, run away. Dragonite almost used up all its strength, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a meteor, and disappeared in the eyes of Yu and others. And the endless dark night of the clay doll giant finally missed, because of the distance problem, and the energy dissipated. Dodged. Yu was overjoyed when he saw this. But, you lost. Sofu said. Why? Yu said dissatisfiedly. Dragonite flew so high, which is beyond the competition venue. Pokémon competitions do not allow it. Sofu smiled. He is a very good young trainer, but he is not good enough and needs to grow. No, our competition doesn't have any venue restrictions, and even if we did, there's no limit on the flying height. In addition, your Clay Titan can fly, and we just had a flying battle, so it should be your Clay Titan that chased it. Yu retorted. What the hell, we've already fought to this point. As long as Dragonite comes down, we can turn the defeat into victory. How can we lose like this? Let's just say that you make sense, but since it's a duel, it should be your Pokémon that attacks. Now your order, can Dragonite still hear it? If Dragonite can't hear your order, what's the point of this game? This is a battle between trainers. Sofu said. At this distance, Dragonite in the sky can't hear what the trainer says below. How can such a battle be considered a battle between trainers? So, as long as you come down, it's fine, right? Yu's eyes lit up. Not bad, but how are you going to command? Sofu looked at Yu and said. It's easy. Yu's mouth curled up. If it were an ordinary person, it would be difficult and almost over, but he is not an ordinary person, and he may not even be a human. A purple energy bomb exploded in his hand, and then it was thrown into the sky. It exploded in the air, and turned into fireworks. Dragonite, who was still flying upward foolishly, was shocked and felt the familiar energy fluctuations. He quickly controlled the trend of flight. This was the information of the meal ticket. He immediately lowered his head, and found that there was no one following him. He breathed a sigh of relief and quickly lowered his head to fly down. Sofu looked at this scene strangely, and looked at Yu in surprise and said, are you a superpower? Dragonite flew at least 10 kilometers. Yu's shadow ball was thrown so far. You are stronger than Dragonite and Clay Giant. I think so. Yu smiled. So, Dragonite will fight with all your strength to solve the Clay Giant. Dragonite waved his little fist, rushed towards the Clay Giant, and hammered the Clay Giant, successfully beating the Clay Giant, to lose its combat ability. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Lunera. Young man from afar, congratulations on passing the test of Pony Island. Sofu put away the Clay Giant, looked at Yu and said, you will get a Z bracelet and a Z pure crystal, come with me. Thank you. Yu hurriedly followed Sofu to Sofu's house, and saw a row of Z bracelets. Sofu picked up one, and handed it to Yu, who put it on immediately, and then waited eagerly for the Z pure crystal. Passing our Pony Island test, you are supposed to get a ground attribute Z pure crystal, but because I didn't use ground attribute Z moves during the competition, so you can choose a Z pure crystal yourself. Sofu picked up a box from the side, and 18 shining Z pure crystals appeared in front of Yu, almost blinding Yu's eyes. I can only sigh that he is worthy of being the king of the island, with rich furniture. Are you surprised that there are so many Z crystal attributes? We are also curious about this. This is naturally bred by our Alala, so we think there should be 18 attributes. However, we have not yet determined the specific attribute effects, and the outside world does not recognize us as Alala. But we believe that there must be 18 attributes. And over the years, the birth of evil attributes and steel attributes have proved that our ideas are correct. Sofu said, I believe it too. Yu affirmed. This is the fact, and cannot be denied. Okay, which of these Z crystals do you choose? Sofu handed a row of Z crystals to Yu. Yu lowered his head and thought. Sometimes, Having too many choices is more troublesome. In theory, his trump card is Haunter, so he should have a ghost type Z crystal, but he also wants a flying Z Absol can use the flying type S slash, and it can't fly. So if he uses Absol to experiment, if it succeeds, Leogu may really be able to fly and get rid of the title of the shame of the mythical beast. But the power of the ghost Z crystal is enough. If Dragonite hadn't been flying fast in the sky, it might have been hit by the move just now, and once it was hit, it would probably lose its combat effectiveness. It's powerful and cool. After a difficult ideological struggle, Yu still chose Ghost Z. Strength is still more important. Don't be so fancy and look for trouble. Whether you can meet Groudon or not is the same thing. Besides, you can't know the joy of fish if you are not a fish. Groudon may not want to fly at all. Okay, using Z moves requires specific actions. You can learn these from the book. If you don't understand, you can learn something from me. That is, you have to help me plant some radishes, or go to find Kiku at the Pokémon school. Sofu took out a book of Z moves and said to Yu, "Thank you, Mr. Sofu." Yu reached out to take the book. As for planting radishes, forget it. Well, young man, continue your journey. I look forward to the day when you complete your pilgrimage to the islands. Sofu said. Thank you, Mr. Sofu. I will definitely finish it within 3 months. Also, Mr. Sofu, can I ask where there are overlord Pokémon around here? Yu asked. The birth of Z Crystal will produce a strange magnetic field, causing the Pokémon living around to mutate. Such Pokémon are called overlord Pokémon. They have a size and strength several times larger than normal Pokémon, and can also command some Pokémon. But because the power comes from the mineral veins, they will protect Z Crystal. Therefore, conversely, where there are overlord Pokémon, there are basically Z Crystal. Do you want other Z Crystals? Sofu looked at Yu in surprise. Of course, I don't think any trainer would dislike too many Z Crystals. Yu said. This, I can't help you. As the king of the island of Pony Island, my duty is to try my best to protect the natural resources of this island. It's your own ability to find it yourself, but it's another matter for me to help you find it. Sofu declined. Well, it's more meaningful to explore on your own. Yu said. Anyway, there are only 4 islands, and they are not in places where humans live, so they can just come one by one. Sofu probably saw what Yu was thinking, but he didn't say much. Anyway, as long as the mineral veins are not destroyed on a large scale, Z pure crystals will continue to be produced, and they will be naturally produced every once in a while. Yu thanked Sofu and planned to ride Dragonite to the Ether Foundation. In the sky, a black shadow suddenly fell, and a powerful power wave burst out. Yu was startled, and when he looked up, he saw a huge purple bat Pokémon floating above his head. At the same time, the thick fog of the ruins of the other shore changed, and a Pokémon with a body in a shell, which looked a bit like a mermaid, floated out. Tapu Fini. If it was before, Yu would definitely look at it curiously, but now he has no such thoughts at all, and all his attention is focused on the huge bat Pokémon that suddenly appeared. Lunala. Inviting the moon beast. Before, the superpower that Mewtwo felt was indeed it. Luna, Sofu, who had been acting calm and composed, was also shocked and stammered when he saw Lunara suddenly appear. The legendary moon god. The legendary Pokémon that guarded the peace of the entire Alola region. It actually appeared in front of him. At this moment, Sofu felt that his death was worth it. You have the power of Giratina and the power of the Pokémon that just disappeared. Lunara's body flashed green light and made a human voice. It was originally sensing the psychic power of Mewtwo and came over eagerly to know which Pokémon it was. As a result, Mewtwo disappeared halfway through the sensing, and then it sensed the power of Giratina. But when it came, it found that there was nothing, just a human, who had the breath of the former and the power of the latter. Can you speak? Yu looked at Lunara strangely. Didn't they not know how to speak in the animation? Telepathy, a normal trick. Lunara looked at Yu and explained. Yu suddenly realized that not all mythical beasts can speak human language. After all, this is also a natural structure, and for most Pokémon, learning human language is not something to be proud of. It's not like they don't have their own language. But Lunala, a superpower and ghost type. It's too easy for her to learn to speak. What Pokémon was the one that just disappeared? Lunala asked again. Mewtwo, the new Pokémon, my partner. Yu said. Mewtwo? Lunala's eyes showed a trace of doubt. She had never heard of it, but it was really good that it was not Necrozma. Then what's the matter with the power of Giratina in you? Lunala asked again. That's because I'm its messenger. Yu said. Messenger? Lunala nodded slightly. If other mythical beasts heard this, they might be surprised. It's quite normal. The kings of the 4 islands are all messengers of the 4 island guardians. Then the 4 guardians are messengers of it and Solgalea. But, Giratina, that irritable guy, will also look for messengers? There was a hint of doubt in Lunala's eyes. She looked at Yu, as if she was wondering what was special about Yu. It seemed that he was a little special. He smelled pretty good. Lunala remained silent, but Yu felt a little creepy. Although in theory, Lunala and Solgalea were both island gods, responsible for protection and symbols of light and justice, Lunala's prototype was also a bat. With this outfit, he looked a bit like a vampire. Mysterious, elegant, and cruel. After a while, Lunala's eyes changed again. She looked at Yu and said, human, do you want to be my messenger? Messenger? Yu. 0_0 Giratina, listen to my explanation. I have no second thoughts. Chapter 124, The Essence of Giratina. Did I hear you right? Yu said. When did I become so popular? Do I have a hidden aura of full favorability of ghost type beasts? No, human. Alala is in danger and needs you to save it. Lunala said solemnly. Alala is in danger? What danger? Are you telling the truth? Do you need our help? Before Yu could speak, Sofu, the king of the island, couldn't wait to ask. Yu was an outsider. To him, Alala was just a place to travel, but to Sofu, it was his hometown, not to mention that he was the king of the island. You can't help with these. Lunala said. If there is danger, I can help, and I will definitely help. Yu said. He likes Alala very much, and doesn't want it to be destroyed. And as a person with a normal outlook on life, he still hopes for world peace. But he really doesn't know what Lunala wants him to help with. See if it's difficult. If it's difficult, bring Zyossi along. After all, Zyossi is a professional in saving the world. Do you know Necrozma? Lunala said. Yes, it is a ruler of another world, theoretically as powerful as Arceus. It fought with Arceus and both were injured. After that, it was hit by a meteorite and was seriously injured and fell into a coma. It should still be sleeping now. Yu said. Yes, but it will wake up, and once it wakes up, it will plunder the power of Solgalea and me, kill us, and then the order of the whole Alala will collapse. Lunala said in a serious tone. Lunara, if the opponent is a powerful Pokémon, we humans can also help and help you resist the opponent. No matter how powerful the enemy is, as long as it is unjust, we must defeat him. Sofu said again. Hapu also nodded repeatedly. He wanted to take away the power and life of their Alala guardian god, which was a heinous crime. Mr. Sofu, Necrozma, also known as the god of glory. Are you sure you want to do it? Yu said. Light. Radiance? Sofu stuttered again, staring at Yu with his eyes wide open. You didn't lie to me. Radiance, the legendary great being that brought light to the Alala region, is the leader of Solgalea and Lunala, and is an even more important great being to Alala. Now it says it wants to attack Solgalea and Lunala. That's right. After being hit by the meteorite, Radiance lost its power and light, and is now sleeping. Once it wakes up, it will take away Solgalea's sunlight and Lunala's moonlight to restore its power. But in this way, Solgalea and Lunala will both die. Yu said. Sofu was entangled and speechless for a while. As the king of the island, he believes in the legendary Pokémon and protects Alala, and his faith has always been firm. But now, the gods of faith are fighting. What should I do? Yes, you know everything. Lunala looked at Yu strangely. Giratina should not know these things. The more books you read, the more information you know. These are all on the murals of the Sun Altar, and there is a way to crack it, which is to let all the people and Pokémon in Alala share their light and heat with Necrozma to relieve the pressure on you and Solgalea, so as to achieve the goal of all of you surviving. Yu said. That's okay. Sofu was ecstatic again. The legend of Alala is like this, and the murals can also record it. If you are worried about this, there should be no problem. Yu looked at Lunala and said, I'm not sure whether what you said is true or false. It's just you humans who are talking about it. Lunala said, what about the mural in the sun altar? Yu said, puzzled. To be honest, he has always been very curious about this. He was talking about what was recorded on the murals of the sun altar, which is also a legend passed down by word of mouth in Alala. Legend has it that the radiant god lost his power, and the power of Solgallia, Lunala, and humans worked together to finally give the radiant god light again. And this was successfully done in the original trajectory. But since it happened later, who painted this mural? How did this legend come about? I don't know. We didn't build that altar either. Besides, I wasn't born when Necrozma and Arceus were fighting. I was born after the previous Lunala died. As soon as I was born, the altar was ready. How would I know if anything happened during that time? Lunala said as a matter of course. I see. So what's your plan? I'll do my best to help if I can. Yu said. Solgallia and I plan to absorb enough light and heat so that Necrozma can absorb it and we can survive. Lunala said. Necrozma didn't mean to kill Solgallia and Lunala, but just to survive, he had to absorb energy. As long as he absorbed enough, he would let Solgallia and Lunala go. The problem is that Solgallia and Lunala's energy is not enough for Necrozma to absorb. So, thinking in reverse, as long as there is enough energy, it can be solved. But how can I help? Yu asked. Absorb more light and heat, go out of the Alala region, absorb another regions, and preferably add the reverse world. Lunala said. Oh, Yu suddenly realized, now he understood, if he wanted to absorb the light and heat of the reverse world, then only he could do it. Otherwise, just talk to Giratina directly. It would be good if Giratina didn't add insult to injury. Do you agree? Lunala said. Hey, wait a moment. Yu walked to the pool on the side, and then the reverse power surged on his body, the water surface churned, and a dimensional hole opened. Giratina flew out of it, emitting a strong destructive breath. Little Yi, what do you want to see me for? Is there something else you want me to help with? Or is the movie finished? Giratina came out and said the first sentence, but just after he finished speaking, he saw Lunala on the side. His expression suddenly became serious and said, why are you here? You are in Alala. Is it appropriate to ask me this question? Lunala asked back. In my territory, asking me why I'm here? You answer me first. Why are you in the reverse world? Little Yi, you're in Alala. You want a Z move? Giratina asked. Yeah, I just got it, but that's not the point. The point is, Lunala wants to ask us something. Yu recounted the original story. It wants you to be its messenger. Giratina's expression changed. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is, it wants to absorb the light and heat of the reversed world. Okay, Yu said. It wants you to be its messenger. Giratina repeated. Yeah. Yu replied. Isn't it only the nature of humans that is a repeater? So you are too? It wants you to be its messenger. Yu lowered his head and didn't want to talk. The point is, you got it wrong. Lunala, die. Giratina roared and attacked Lunala. There are already 4 little brothers. Even if I split it in half with Solgallia, there are still 2. You still want to take one from me? Son thief, die. Chapter 125 Lunala, why don't you follow me? Young man, your Pokémon is the legendary Pokémon in the Sinnoh region, Giratina, who lives in the antimatter world. Sofu looked at the 2 Pokémon that suddenly started fighting in the sky and said to Yu, that's right. Yu said. In the legend, it has a violent personality and is full of destructiveness. Because of its strong destructive power, it was exiled to another world. Now it seems that it is indeed the case. Sofu said. That's the legend is wrong. Giratina has a good personality. Yu said. Very good. Sofu looked at the furious Giratina in the sky, fighting so hard that the wind and clouds changed, the sky shook, the air exploded, and it seemed that it was going to knock down the sun. You call this a good personality? Is it your fault, or am I? It should be pretty good, almost. Dragonite, take me up and talk to them. Yu said. Dragonite, who was silently recovering from his injuries, suddenly heard Yu's words. Deg. What did you say? They are fighting so fiercely. I go up. Do you want me to die? If any of his special moves hit me, I would have to stay in the hospital bed for at least a week. Don't come over. You will bear the consequences. Yu said. Dragonite looked up at the dangerous aerial battle, then looked at Yu, showing a tangled and struggling expression, and gritted his teeth, and walked towards Yu. Forget it. Go up. At most I will be beaten up, but I won't be beaten to death. If I don't go up, I will starve to death. And if I'm really injured, lying on the bed, eating snacks while lying down, it seems quite good thinking of this. Dragonite suddenly took the initiative, and ran to Yu's side. Yu quickly rode on Dragonite, and flew straight to the center of the battle between Giratina and Lunala. Giratina, who was immersed in a crazy attack, saw Yu flying over, and had no choice but to retract his attack. Lunala looked strange, but thought that she needed help, so she retracted her attack. Dragonite flew between the two Pokémon, unscathed, and a little disappointed. Everyone, live in peace. Yu said. Go away, I want to teach it to be a Pokémon. Giratina said. Giratina, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Your power is not at its peak, and you are in a Lala. Even if your attributes restrain me, you can't beat me. Lunala said. Try it. Giratina said. In terms of hard power, except for Arceus and Necrozma, it has not seen many stronger than it. Even if it is not at its peak, Lunala can add ghosts. If it is hit by Ghost's special moves, it will be quadruple damage. Who is afraid of who? Try it. Lunala was a little angry, and wanted to call out the 4 island guardians together. Stop. Harmony brings wealth. It's not a big deal. Giratina, if we don't agree, we don't agree. No need to do it. Yu said hurriedly. You speak for it. Giratina stared at Yu, with a dangerous light in his eyes. Yu felt a chill in his body, and felt that he was in danger. He said without thinking, no, absolutely not. I'm definitely on your side. Giratina looked at Yu in disbelief, and a voice sounded in Yu's heart. Really? Then why did you stop me? I'm doing this for your own good. After all, you are not fully recovered now. In a Lola's territory, even if you win, you will still lose, right? And they have Solgalea on their side, so there is no need. I'm afraid that you will get hurt again. Yu said in his heart. Giratina then retracted his gaze. Yu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. 1 or 2 of them were so violent, and they started fighting as soon as they disagreed. What else can everyone do if they can talk? He discussed with Giratina again. Then do you agree to Lunala's request? Agree. Anyway, the reversed world is like this. It can't be damaged. Light and heat are useless to me. I will talk to it. Giratina said. Okay. Yu said. It's best if you talk. Giratina flew towards Lunala and started the negotiation. Yu listened on the side, but after listening for a while, he went down. Because he couldn't understand. When 2 Pokémon were together, they didn't speak human language. It was really boring. Do you believe that my soul was out of the body? After reaching the bottom, after a long time, Giratina came down and said, how is the movie? It's almost done. It will be released in 3 months. Yu said. That's good. Try to become stronger. How about Mega Evolution and Mewtwo? Giratina said, if you are strong enough, I will fight you. I'm trying hard. Yu said, Mewtwo is okay, but you Mega Evolution, sorry, nothing. Giratina turned his head, and then the dimensional hole on the water surface opened, entering the reverse world. Giratina looks like he has a bad personality. Don't you really consider being my messenger? Lunala floated down and said. No. Yu said without thinking. Giratina just left. You are trying to hurt me. Besides, what is my relationship with Giratina, and what is my relationship with you? It's completely different. Really not considering it? Lunala said. No. Yu kept shaking his head. In the reversed world, Giratina, who was watching the screen, nodded slightly, then closed the screen, and closed his eyes to sleep. That's it. Practice well to improve your strength. Lunala's wings vibrated, and a purple Z crystal flew out. Lunara Z. Yu looked at the Z crystal in his hand curiously. Lunala's exclusive Z crystal, with Lunala, can use Lunala's strongest Z move. With it, it can absorb power from all directions. At the same time, it also acts as my messenger. Tapu and the others will cooperate with you. Lunala said. Thank you. There is one more thing I want to ask. You can do it. Solgallia should be able to do it too. If possible, I recommend someone. He is best at saving the world. Yu said. He has no problem reversing the world, but he is not fast enough to travel around the world to collect light and heat. It is better to ask Xiaozi, a professional traveler and expert in encountering mythical beasts, to come. It is indeed possible, but human, you must know that our Z pure crystal is not simply provided. The owner represents our trust. If he wants to come, he needs to be tested. And Solgallia has some problems. Lunala said. There is definitely no problem with this person. Yu vowed. If it follows the original trajectory, you will all raise the child for him. How could he dislike it? Okay, you bring him to the sun altar. Lunala said, and then the superpower surged in his body and disappeared into the sky. Yu watched Lunala leave, then turned to Sofu and said, Mr. Sofu, where do you think there are Overlord Pokémon nearby? It was the same question as before, but this time Sofu forced a smile and took out a map and said, here is the distribution of Overlord Pokémon that I carefully sorted out, and there are Z crystal introductions to the Strength and Guardian of Overlord Pokémon. Yu looked down and found that there were Fire Z, Water Z, Ground Z, and Rock Z on the map, which was less than expected, but with this map, it would definitely be faster to collect them. Then, Yu looked at Tapu Finfin again. Do you have Z crystal? Look into my eyes and think about it carefully. I'm the person that the boss is optimistic about, so think it through. Tapu Finfin glanced at Yu, turned his head as if he was a little unhappy, and flew into the thick fog, and at the same time, threw a Z crystal over. Yu reached out to take it, and his face was ecstatic. Flying Z. I originally thought that Tapu Finfin, who had water and fairy attributes, would give me a water Z or fairy Z, but it turned out to be a flying Z. Awesome. Yu waved goodbye to Grandpa Suafu Wu and his grandson, got on Dragonite and headed for the address of the Ether Foundation. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.